with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News.
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening. We are live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Coming up.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
Well, there you have it. President Donald Trump exclusively told GB News that he hopes to have a great relationship with new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but that he must get control of energy and immigration. Do you think Burnham will heed Donald Trump's advice? Also,
200,000 people have turned up on our beaches illegally, including murderers and terrorists. That's more people than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Reform will respond by ordering His Majesty's Royal Navy into the Channel to defend Britain's borders.
At last, Reform UK says it would deploy the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines to stop all small boat crossings, even landing troops on France, if need be, on their beaches, if Paris refuses to take the migrants back. But is it a workable plan? And
I did actually reach out back yesterday to him. I did say, look, should we have a call? I haven't heard back yet.
Restore Britain's leader, Rupert Lowe, has accused Nigel Farage of lying over claims the Reform UK leader reached out to discuss a possible deal between Reform and Restore Britain. It's all the art, it's all getting really confusing. Is there any way through this clash of personalities to unite the right? Also,
and we will build more council homes. That is the fair and sustainable way to bring the welfare bill down.
I've got an idea. Benefit claimants are being offered discounts on everything from package holidays to sex toys through private schemes aimed at disabled people. Is this just the epitome of benefits Britain? Also,
fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
He's the guy that said, I feel gay. Well, those proposals have been dropped, and it looks like Infantino could be on the out, as well as it's being reported that the FA is set to withdraw its support for the FIFA president. Is the final whistle about to blow for Infantino? I'm Nana Akwe, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome, I'm Nana Akwe. This is The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London is my panel, political commentator Jonathan Less. We meet again, Jonathan. And broadcaster Candice Holsworth. And in Washington, D.C., it's US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Thank you for joining me. Right. Well, let's start with the US president. He spoke with the UK's new Prime Minister on July the 20th, the day after my birthday, by the way, 21.
Oh, happy belated.
Wait, don't say that. Somebody at home said, yeah, right, pull the other one. Yeah, all right, anyway, so they responded to a question from GBNews whilst addressing reporters in the Oval Office. President Donald Trump told GBNews that Britain is sitting on gold, but warned that it will remain bankrupt unless it reopens drilling in the North Sea. Donald Trump also told GBNews he will have a very good relationship with the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but warned that illegal immigration is killing not only the UK's economy, but the whole of Europe, and promised to help. Well, with me now is the man who put those questions to the President for GB News viewers, GB News reporter Will Mayrick. So, Will, cheer up, you look very sad. Smile, for God's sake. For God's sake, man. Listen, you did good. You got to speak to Donald Trump. Talk to me about the whole experience and what did he say?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, an interesting day today at the White House. So GB News were lucky enough to be in the White House press ball. And that basically means for viewers at home that we are with the president all day when he's in town. And if there's open press events, we're there and we get to ask him questions. So today at the White House, the president was making an announcement in support of military spouses, recognising how crucial they are to the success of the military and how much they support people who are serving. Now, off the back of that, as he normally does, he took questions from members of the press. And so today I thought, let's ask him about the proposed Reform UK policy, which is about about using the military to tackle illegal immigration. Because last week he had said to Bev, when she was in the Oval Office, that illegal immigration is the one thing that is killing the UK. Well, this is what he had to say.
Look, you have to stop illegal immigration in Europe. I know Europe better than anybody, better than the people that run it, and I have great relationships here. Two things are killing Europe. Number one is immigration, number two is energy. Like the UK, when you look at the UK, they have one of the best energy fields in the world, North Sea oil. Now, I think your new prime minister is going to actually open up from what I hear, I spoke to him, and he sounded terrific on this subject. But you open it up, you'll be a wealthy country. You keep it closed, you're going to be a bankrupt country, which is what you are now. Essentially, you're a bankrupt country. You have one of the greatest energy fields, the North Sea oil, one of the greatest fields in the world. You know, the UK buys its energy from Norway, who gets the energy from the North Sea, from not as vibrant a part of the North Sea oil was. You're sitting on top of gold, better than gold, and you don't do anything with it. It doesn't work. You don't allow the oil companies in, and it doesn't work. And I spoke with your new prime minister. I was very impressed, and he sort of indicated to me, I said, look, you can be a wealthy country or a bankrupt country. You have your choice.
Now, Nana, I mean, not completely new issues that he's bringing up about the UK. We've heard it before. He said that illegal immigration is a huge issue for us and also energy security. However, from his answer, he picked up that potentially Andy Burnham had grasped what he gets annoyed by and might be changing it. Completely different to what he said before about Keir Starmer, and he made it no secret that he disagreed quite significantly with Keir Starmer. So I then thought off the back, let's ask him whether therefore the change in leadership might, just might, have changed the way that he views the UK.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you. And the people that are there, people from your country, people from other countries that have been there for a long time and did a great job, beautiful place. You know, look, I love it. You know, my parents both came from Europe indirectly. So a German, Scot, and, you know, it's like one of those things. It's very sad. When I see what's happening to Europe, it's very sad to me. But they have a problem with immigration. They have a problem with energy. You have windmills all over the place. Windmills, you lose your shirt. Any country with windmills is a loser, okay? You just have to look. If they have windmills, they're a loser. Because you lose money with windmills.
So Donald Trump leaving it open to the possibility of a repair maybe in the relationship, the special relationship. Is it still up for being close with the US? Well, can Andy Burnham save it? That is the question that still remains.
All right, well, Will, well done. Great interview. Really good to get those questions out of him. I love it. You have windmills all over the place. He's right. They're unsightly. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That is Will Mayrick. Thank you. He's there in DC. All right, well, joining me in London is my panel, political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. Jonathan Liss, you were bursting out into laughter when Donald Trump said you had a problem with energy and windmills all over the place. He's right, though, isn't he?
No, he's not right.
Problem. Those things are
he's not right, Nana. No one cares about the occasional wind farm. My God, we've got problems in this country, and the occasional wind farm is not one of them. They're not killing foxes.
Have you asked anyone who lives near one?
No.
Talking utter nonsense.
I've seen polls.
What polls are they?
Look, you are obsessed with immigration. I'm
talking about windmills all over the place.
You don't talk about windmills because windmills are not an issue. I'm prepared to accept that migration is an issue for people in this country. You ask people on the doorstep, what are the main issues? No one says windmills, nobody.
You know why you sort of swerved away from that? Because you said you said that no one's unhappy with the windmills.
I didn't say that. I said no one's talking about that and their main issues.
A lot of people... No, you didn't say that either. No, you didn't say those weren't your words.
Windmills are not one of them, I'm sorry.
It's about energy. That's why he was referring to windmills, and a lot of people are complaining about energy. A lot of people talk about
prices.
Exactly.
Listen,
energy prices are high because of net zero, and that's one of the big problems with the energy crisis. And another reason why we're closing down the North Sea.
If people were paying,
isn't it, Jonathan?
If people were paying less money for energy, I guarantee you that less than 1% of the country would care about windmills. windmills. No one cares about windmills. It's a complete obsession from Donald Trump, who almost is self-parodically talking about windmills. No one cares about them.
Be quiet, Jonathan, actually. Be realistic about this. He's talking about windmills because they're very inefficient in terms of energy when we have North Sea oil. Everyone cares about energy because everyone uses energy.
Yes, it's about the price of it, not the source of it.
Sorry. So that's why he's talking about it, and that's important. Candice Holdsworth.
Yes, I think for Donald Trump, he just cannot understand why we don't use this amazing resource that we have. And I think most people are coming round to the belief that this ideological commitment that many politicians on the left have to net zero, where they won't use the North Sea, is just madness. I mean, they would say to people on the right, why do you hate green energy so much? But they're the ones who politicize energy. They're the ones who and they're having this conversation amongst themselves. And then we see the news that BP is like, well, we don't care. We're just not going to invest anymore. You can have that little chat between yourselves. This is no good for us. So this can't continue on. This situation cannot continue. No company is going to invest in the North Sea if we carry on like this, and then we'll just lose it. And then we'll find ourselves spinning into chaos.
Well, that's one thing you talked about. The other thing was energy. Let's bring the other thing was immigration. Sorry. Let's bring in our US panel. Political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow, the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. All right, I'm going to start with you, Eric. When you saw what happened in Ceuta with the 60,000 sort of people coming across and just they left, thankfully. Do you look at the UK and think, oh, you're quite exposed there, you need to do something serious about it?
In the United States, that has been something that the Trump administration has run on. We know that ICE has been across the country gunning down people in the United States. They have vilified immigrants in this country, and it has been something that they have used as a wedge issue, not just in the United States, but also exported it around the world. And so I think what we're seeing here is this polarization that's playing out. It's playing out across the world, and I don't think that it's a nuanced issue, and quite frankly, I think it's just creating more, not less, conflict.
So you think that Donald Trump talking about that creates conflict? You don't think there's a problem with mass illegal immigration?
No, not at all.
Really, Eric?
And yes, I do think the president is creating more conflict.
Came to one place, a place that only has a population of 80,000. Some of them are still lingering. They managed to get there, some swam, some crossed the border, some got on boats. And you don't think that that's a problem?
Well, I think the problem is the root issue and the root cause. This is something that we have seen in the United States. There were people that were coming from countries from Central America, places like Honduras and other places. And what we do know for a fact is many of these people were fleeing failed states. That's how they were coming to the United States. And so I think the issue is for the United States is try to do what is possible to stabilize these other nations to ensure that those people are not coming into the U.S. And I think that is always going to be a problem, and I think it's no different than what we're seeing. But to vilify people who are simply looking for a better life, who are looking to make things better for their families, I think that only exacerbates, not lessens the problem.
Well, they're breaking the law coming to a country illegally, so just because they want a better life, it doesn't work like that. Simon Hankinson.
Great to be with you, Nana. Yeah, I couldn't honestly disagree more with Eric on this one. Mass migration is a problem. It's a problem for the UK. You've got boats arriving daily, dumping off, 200 guys that you know absolutely nothing about that are instantly going to be a burden on your NHS, on your schools, on your housing. It's causing all kinds of political problems in the UK, and it's a huge problem here. We let in maybe 10 million under the Biden administration. We had no criminal background checks, and just like the guys pouring into Ceuta, look, these are not people coming, to escaping a horrible regime. Morocco is a safe country, according to the European Union. These are chancers looking to get work, and the EU has rules, and it doesn't include anyone from anywhere in the world being able to come in anytime they want and get a job.
I think that we have to. Can I cut in at this point?
Go on.
I think that we have to be clear that this thing that happened in Ceuta was not just a coincidence. It wasn't just a spontaneous event. This is clearly a coordinated effort by traffickers with the tacit or explicit consent and facilitation of the Moroccan government.
So what's your point? That's the same as France.
No, this is not
the same as France.
No, it's not
the same as France.
It's not.
The French, actually, no, we had a reporter out. Christophe went to France, he asked them, and they said, oh, yeah, no, we've been told to let people through. So that's the tacit cooperation of the authorities enabling that.
Between Spain and Morocco.
And we have a spat with France, don't we? We have a spat with France.
We have a diplomatic spat with France the same way that Spain and Morocco have over Western Sahara. This is a one-off incident, and the vast majority of people who crossed into Ceuta, who, by the way, had no means of getting across to mainland Spain or Europe, were returned to Morocco.
Well, some of them, exactly, by boat or however, immediately, without any of that legitimate legal nonsense. Very quickly, Candy, so I'd like you to comment on this.
Yeah, I mean, the Ceuta situation is proving to be one of the great catastrophes. It turns out that a lot of the people who tried to swim over were teenagers who have drowned. And if authorities, if it's true, they allowed them to go through the border, they have blood on, well, they have those teenagers' deaths on their conscience.
That's true, but then the teenagers should never have got into the water in the first place, which is where people who are very liberal and say, oh, no, if they want a better life, they should... No, they shouldn't. You shouldn't be crossing because it's deadly and also it's illegal. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Let's read a statement because the Prime Minister's spokesperson said oil and gas will be part of our energy mix for decades to come, and this Prime Minister has been clear that he will take a pragmatic approach. The only way to bring bills down for the good of all is by taking control with clean, homegrown power to deliver energy security. All right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
200,000 people have turned up on our beaches illegally, including murderers and terrorists. That's more people than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Reform will respond by ordering His Majesty's Royal Navy into the Channel to defend Britain's borders.
Reform UK says it would deploy the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines to stop all small boat crossings, even landing troops on French beaches if Paris refuses to take migrants back. But is it a workable plan? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live on GB News. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, Reform UK says it would deploy the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines to stop all small boat crossings, even landing troops on French beaches if Paris refused to take migrants back. The party's proposed Operation Fortress would see military vessels intercept boats in the Channel before returning migrants to France or Belgium, with Nigel Farage claiming that the crossings could be stopped within a fortnight. Critics have questioned whether the plan is practical, including former Royal Navy Commander Tom Sharp, who warns that Britain's warships are not designed for migrant operations. But Nigel Farage claims the plan would stop the boats within 2 weeks.
That under a Reform government, within a fortnight, there would be no more boats. And whilst this issue may not be uppermost in the minds of many in Westminster, I can tell you out in the country, it is. And that comes down to a simple point: fairness. What is fair? What is right? What is wrong? Those who come to Britain legally now go through a long, expensive process. It's unfair on them.
Well, with me now is Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, welcome. So, look, this is what Nigel Farage is proposing. Reform UK are saying that Zia Youssef did his wonderful dramatic video, which I really agreed with. I feel like he's saying what I've said. You saw what happened in Ceuta. The Spanish army, military, were able to then send people back immediately, even though they didn't say, we claim asylum, but they were still able to do that. It wasn't unlawful. It wasn't seen as illegal. They didn't breach any treaties or anything like that. So have they got a point?
So I've long been of the view that actually you wouldn't need to have the Navy involved in this if you had a strong enough deterrent in place. But I think, unfortunately, we're at a point now where we don't have that. And actually, the French have been behaving so terribly in recent years with these big, expensive, multi-million-pound deals that they're just simply not honouring, stopping just 1 in 3 migrants attempting to make the crossings. In some weeks, it's 1 in 5, whilst at the same time receiving over £1 billion. But actually, I think there is real merit in returning individuals to the beaches of France. And actually, some of the criticisms of this policy that have been made by the individuals that you just mentioned haven't actually taken into account the minutiae of what this proposal is, that actually they're just talking about repurposing border force vessels. We're not talking about Royal Navy vessels or assets here. Actually, we're talking about stuff that already exists and is already sort of in the orbit of this problem. But I think, unfortunately, this has been a problem that has been allowed to rumble on because we haven't been prepared to have an awkward conversation with the French. We've been far too prepared to allow them to really take the mickey out of us, to continue laughing at us as you know, as that footage with Chris Philp did demonstrate. You've got French police officers there simply saying, well, we've been told we're not allowed to stop them once they're in the water. And I think it is about time that actually a big gesture is made such as this. And actually, if there is a diplomatic tit for tat that emerges from this, and that is probably what is needed at this point.
Because, OK, so let's imagine that we could potentially do that. Won't there be problems, for example, France might, I don't know what they would put there when you return these people, what kind of vessel you'd be in. Obviously, they don't want to waste warships doing this, right? So if they're small vessels, then they could be overrun. Are they going to use the same sort of ferry vehicles and just carry... Do you see what I mean, practically? And also you might have a belligerent border force who refuse, as they have in the past, said that they might, because they'll say that they're breaking the law of the sea.
So operationally, a lot of individuals that I'm assuming would be carrying out taking individuals off their flimsy vessels and onto UK assets would have been trained in the ability to take individuals off of unseaworthy vessels. And actually, there are several precedents of the UK entering French waters, taking individuals off boats and returning them to the French shore when they've run into trouble. So there is already some examples that can be pointed to on this front. And actually, I do think there is the humanitarian argument that is being made here. We are seeing individuals die in the Channel. We saw 3 women just the other day that die in one of these boats, apparently all of heart attacks. So I do think there is a very strong case that the international law obligations, laws of the sea, that imposes a duty on individuals to preserve life at sea would come into play in this instance as well. And if the French do choose to object, then actually I think they would be doing a grave disservice to those many communities in northern France that are being absolutely blighted by this Channel crisis, this migrant crisis. There is whole shanty towns, there's crime that's running rife as a result of this crisis. So it's in their interest for this to be solved as well. And if it does require the British Navy or British Armed Forces to get involved, then so be it.
Is the Navy big enough? I mean, you saw John Healey the time when he was Defence Secretary, couldn't say how many ships there were. You know, it was quite embarrassing, really. I actually love that clip. I'd love to see that again. Thankfully, he's moved on to Chancellor. I don't know whether that is thankful, actually, because if you can't count ships, I'm wondering how he's going to count money. But let's not worry about that right now. But, you know, do we have the resource?
Well, as I said, the assets do already exist, and they're not being used with anywhere near the capacity that they do offer. Some of them are just going out there, and as was said in the press conference, actually, and just picking up sort of empty dinghies. And I do think the personnel service of this is something that I would imagine the Royal Navy is more than already capable of meeting. I mean, as again was said in the press conference, what else is the Royal Navy there for if it isn't to stop an invasion of this country? And I think the main message from this is it's a big, clear signal to those that would consider coming to Britain that there is not a cat and house chance of you actually being able to step foot into the UK and then drag your heels through an asylum system that makes your removal very, very difficult, because we mustn't forget that just 1 in 20 individuals that have crossed on a small boat have actually been removed. And I think that is an astonishing figure that needs rectifying very, very quickly.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much, Rob Bates, Centre for Migration Control. He's the research director there. Thank you. All right. Well, let's go to my panel in London. I'm going to have to start with Jonathan Liss because I'm sure he's going to say something against that. Because I don't know. I mean, do you agree with what he's saying?
No, of course not. The reform plan fails at every single hurdle. And it's not just me who's saying that, it's people who are actually in the Royal Navy who are saying that. It's even people like Henry Bolton, the former head of UKIP, who's certainly no slouch on immigration.
Oh, what, the great Henry Bolton?
I didn't say he was great.
Exactly.
But I said he was in the army, and
there are many people in the army who agree with it.
And none of them happen to be leaders of reform.
Well,
so look,
this is the Navy,
Nana,
by the way.
If you are taking the Royal Navy, the first thing about the Royal Navy is they are not allowed to fire at unarmed civilians.
They're not going to fire at anybody.
So what's the point of getting them to turn the boats back?
Well, nobody's talking about guns.
Well, then what's the point of the Navy?
You're saying a little dinghy can refuse a big ship?
Yes.
It's not going to...
Yes. Because what's the Navy going to do? I literally just said they can't fire them.
They're not going to fire them. They'll attach the boat and drag the boat back.
OK, fine.
Or put them on the boat.
Let's say... Let's stop.
No, don't you tell me. Hang on, no.
So then you take it to France.
Sorry.
You take it to France.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you there.
And you cross into French territorial waters. And what happens in French territorial waters?
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you.
Because the thing about Nigel Farage is...
Jonathan, don't talk over me. All right? I decide how this runs, not you.
All right. Right, so Nigel Farage can give orders to the Royal Navy if he's Prime Minister. He can't give orders to Emmanuel Macron. And what you can do is you can command the Royal Navy to turn back dinghies, but you can't force them into French territorial waters, because guess what? That constitutes an invasion of France. We wouldn't like it if the French Navy directed their vessels into British waters, because that would be an invasion of our sovereignty, and they will have exactly the same rights.
So you don't think that a load of migrants, possibly 1,000 on a boat, is not an invasion of this country? All right, let's get a Candice.
It's not what I think, it's what the law says.
Let's get a Candice.
So it's very interesting. So the leader of National Rally in France, Jordan Bardella, he has explicitly said, if I come to power, I will work out a pushback deal with Britain, where they can push back migrants to France. He said, we'll create a joint border force where we patrol the beaches.
Of course you have a deal, you can have a deal.
Yes.
You can have a deal, of course you can have a deal.
Let Candice speak.
So a lot of it is just political will.
Yeah.
If you had French political leaders in France who were willing to be strict like this and to make the sort of deals that Ceuta has with Morocco, for instance, where you can push people back, most of this would be solved.
Well, we supposedly do have a deal with France to make sure they don't allow them to get on the dinghies. We've given them money to help them stop them from coming across in the first place.
Yes.
And as we know, they're not doing that at all. So now the deal with France should be that they should take these people back. And I don't see what the French will do on receiving these people. What will they do?
Yes.
They're getting their own people back that came from their place. It's not an invasion, as Jonathan says, of our army going there. It's returning. It's returning. No, we're not going into. No, but we are returning. So do you count migrants coming into our waters as an invasion?
If you send the Royal Navy into French waters, then yes, that's an invasion of France. That's what.
So the migrants are not invading the UK.
That is a breach.
So the migrants are the migrants invading the UK?
There's a difference between an army of a country and migrants.
But we're not. But we won't be sending. It's unlikely that we'll be sending warships. It is likely we'll be sending things that look like ferries. So that is not an invasion. Actually, it's returning people back to France.
If you want to return migrants to France, as Candice has just identified, you need to have a deal with France. There is currently a deal with France that says that you can return migrants to France on a one-for-one basis if you're then allowing people.
No, I don't think we need to follow that.
If you have a different French government, that would be that's a hypothetical.
Enough. Thank you.
But right now, that deal does not exist.
Jonathan, when I say stop, just stop. Yeah. And also, don't talk over me because unfortunately, people are. I'm just speaking and you're speaking at the same time, so that is talking over me, OK? People are listening on radio, it doesn't work for them. People watching on TV would probably like to throw something at you through the TV. We all want to. I'm teasing. We love him, really. A Home Office spokesperson said the government is bearing down on small boat crossings, with removals of small boat migrants at record levels and asylum claims down by 12%. And we have removed or deported almost 70,000 people who were here illegally, an increase of 41%, and are going further to remove the incentives that draw illegal migrants to this country. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
I did actually reach out back yesterday to him. I did say, look, should we have a call? I haven't heard back yet.
Restore Britain's leader, Rupert Lowe, has accused Nigel Farage of lying over claims the Reform UK leader reached out to discuss possible deals between Reform and Restore Britain. Great start. Is there any way through this clash of personalities to unite the right? This is The Late Show Live on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe has accused Nigel Farage of lying over claims the Reform UK leader reached out to discuss a possible deal between Reform and Restore Britain. Mr Farage told reporters earlier today that he had suggested a phone call after Lowe publicly proposed the parties work together. But Lowe later published what he said was the only message he received, reading simply, "We'll call later." The public row comes after Lowe offered to put aside months of infighting if Reform adopted a series of Restore Britain's policies. But Farage insists that he won't abandon key allies to secure any agreement. So could Reform UK and Restore Britain get over the clashes in personality to unite the right? Right, well, with me now is former editor for the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, well, in a way, Nigel, if he said we'll call later, isn't that him kind of reaching out after Rupert's sent the message? That's what I'm reading, but is that not enough? I don't know. I'm a bit confused with these two.
Depends what the message was. If the message was, should we have a chat about getting together and merging our parties? And he says, I'll call later, then maybe you could take that in a positive light. If he just texted him to say, I'd like to have a chat, isn't it time we spoke together? Then I call later means clearly less than that. So politicians of all parties do talk to each other and do text each other. So I don't think we can read too much into that.
So if he said we'll call later, so Nigel texts is saying we'll call later, and then says I have reached out to Rupert, I guess that's him reaching out. Is it?
Yeah, I guess so. But the bottom line really is what these two men are going to do to try and unite the right. I mean, it's clear that there's a pressing need on both of them to do something, because Reform is going through a bit of a sticky patch. It's lost a couple of important elections, the Makerfield and the mayoralty, and Gordon and Denton. This £5 million funding, whether it's broken the rules or not, there's clearly a lot of mudslinging going in Nigel Farage's direction. He's a little bit rattled by it, so that some of that will stick. And they've fallen in the polls a little bit because of the bounce of the arrival of a smiling, cheerful Andy Burnham. So, yes, perhaps they are looking to the future a little bit and thinking, well, do we need to get together to unite the right? And, of course, he's also got the ascendancy of Kemi Badenoch, who's doing really well right now. So it maybe will force their hands a little bit.
Because I'm a little bit concerned if they want to unite, they're already squabbling over who called who first. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's sort of like you want to. Well, if this is your biggest problem, your biggest argument with each other, do you think that you could just let that go if you genuinely want the right to unite?
No, well, it's clear. I mean, and apart from that, Nigel Farage does not like the Conservative Party, so the chances of him doing a deal with them is pretty slim. The point is, though, as we get nearer to an election, and of course we could be very near to election because Andy Burnham could decide to throw the spanner in the works and call one early, despite denying he's going to have an early election. Nobody's really ready for it, and the polls are not in the right direction for reform right now. And the only necessity might be the mother of invention in terms of a unity between these parties, because the only other option is for the Labour to win another majority, perhaps fall lower than what it is now, and have to do some kind of deal with other left-wing parties such as the SNP, the Lib Dems and the Nationalists in Wales.
All right, David Wooding, thank you very much. He's the former editor of the Sunday Express. All right, let's bring in the panel. Political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdworth. And in Washington, D.C., US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. All right, I'm going to start with you, Simon Hankinson. You've seen what's happening in British politics. We've got a whole sort of right-wing bit of a fight between Restore and Reform, and I think there's somebody else beginning with an R. There might be. I think there is another one. And then, of course, you've got the Conservatives. And I'm wondering, do you think that there's a possibility they may unite, having heard Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage just arguing over who messaged who first?
I really hope so. I mean, speaking as an expatriate Brit, it's incredibly depressing to see the right split when they're facing such monumental problems that they have to be united to fight. We have the same problem in the U.S. The Republicans are great at the circular firing squad, and the moment we get power, conservatives get power, we start shooting at each other, metaphorically speaking, of course. So, yeah, I really hope that Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe and the conservatives can make a pact that they can decide what issues they have in common and what they actually want to get done on migration, on the economy, on the important things, and then say whoever wins, let's unite, and maybe even a single ticket, because otherwise you have Labour governing with what, 37% of the vote, and they call that a crushing majority. They got 400 seats in Parliament. That's insane.
Doesn't really work out that well for the other parties. It seems a bit odd they should get so many. Eric Ham, your thoughts?
Well, we're seeing this play out right now in Washington with the Democratic Party. You've got the traditional Democratic Party made up of centrists, and then you have Democratic Socialists. But what's interesting is, unlike what's taking place in the UK, where there is a back and forth over a phone call, what we're seeing here in the United States is that the far left is simply attempting a coup, something very similar to what President Donald Trump did when he came down that gilded escalator back in 2015. And typically when parties are in the political wilderness, what happens is there is oftentimes the possibility of a rift like this, or the possibility of sides attempting to try to put aside their differences, come together for the greater good. It'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Candice?
I think that there's just a hard electoral reality. If the right is split like this, the left is going to keep winning elections, and they are willing to work together. They are willing to come together to stop reform, for instance. I mean, many pollsters have said this. There's a big reform coalition out there who will work just basically to keep reform out of power. When I speak to people on the ground, they sort of say, well, right now everyone's, ruling out a deal and angling for positions, but really they know they have to do this. They have to be pragmatic. I think, though, that Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage have very big personalities. They're both alpha males. And it remains to be seen whether or not they can bury the hatchet.
I suspect because they're squabbling over, well, I said it first and you said it. I don't think it's going to work out. All right, well, listen, come on the Late Show Live.
And we will build more council homes. That is the fair and sustainable way to bring the welfare bill down.
Benefit claimants are being offered discounts on everything from package holidays to sex toys through private schemes aimed at disabled people. Is this just the epitome of Benefits Britain? This is the Late Show Live only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Akweer. This is GB News. Now, benefit claimants are being offered discounts on everything, from package holidays to sex toys through private schemes aimed at disabled people. Some offers are available to people receiving personal independence payments, which is PIP, including those with hidden disabilities such as ADHD and anxiety. Critics say the schemes risk making life on benefits more attractive and could undermine confidence in the welfare system. But the companies behind the discounts insist that they're privately funded by retailers, cost taxpayers nothing, and help disabled people cope with extra costs of living. Right, it was quite interesting, I've got to say. With me now, my panel, political commentator Jonathan List, and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holsworth, and in Washington, D.C., US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. So I have been reading up about this, and some of them, one of them is a scheme you pay, I think it's £20 for 2 years, and then you get all the benefits and everything. So that's the National Disability Card. So it's 20 quid, 2 years, and then you're eligible, and then you can find out all the little things. So it's like you have to pay for that. Then there's another one, which is, I think, 70% off, and they, again, pay a small monthly fee. I think it's called Purple without the E on it. So if you have one of those disabilities, you're claiming benefits, you can subscribe to those at your cost, by the way, to receive discounts. Jonathan Liss, what do you make of that?
Well, you just pointed out that this is not funded by taxpayers.
I go on this show week after week to be told that we live in a capitalist society where businesses can make their own decisions. If businesses are choosing to offer discounts or benefits to some of the most vulnerable people in society, then I don't see why it's any business of ours.
But they can subscribe, so many of them are subscribed, using their money to subscribe to these things. To get this, don't you think that there's a chance that people could manipulate this system? And there are also things online to help people, so people can go online and they go on there and see the best way that they can, in a sense, scam the system.
Nana, if people are choosing to use privately funded schemes that private companies are funding themselves, that's no business of yours or mine. It's a matter of the companies themselves. If the companies feel they're being scammed, that's a matter for them to withdraw those schemes. They are choosing not to do so.
Candice?
Some of these things which are classed as disabilities that need concessions, I'm sceptical of things like ADHD, for instance. Why does that need a concession at, say, a theme park, for example? Like, why do you need to go to the front of the queue quicker than others? And I remember having a very, very awkward encounter on the Underground once. I was heavily pregnant, and I was sitting in one of the chairs for people who are pregnant, disabled, or whatever. And this incredibly entitled woman with, I couldn't see any visible disability whatsoever, came up to me and pointed to her sunflower badge, and I had to say to her, I am pregnant. And she sort of got embarrassed, but I thought, what's going on here? It was very weird.
And just to confirm that one, a lot of these, it's councils as well, offering benefits and discounts on nights out and beach huts that are paid for by the taxpayer. Eric Ham.
You know, this whole idea in the U.S., at least, of villainizing those who receive benefits began back in the 80s with Ronald Reagan's infamous welfare queen. And today, or actually last week, the national debt has surpassed $40 trillion. And if you just stop paying welfare benefits, that wouldn't even be a drop in the bucket in terms of what we're seeing right now. And so I think this is an argument that simply doesn't have merit. I think it's just another opportunity or effort to try to create division and villainize those who simply are not the problem and who, quite frankly, are the most vulnerable in our society. And I think if we really wanted to address the problem, then I think going after corporate welfare would be a much more effective way to do so.
All right, Simon Hankinson.
I mean, for me, the big picture, look, when I was growing up, someone who's disabled, you would think someone was in a wheelchair, they were spastic, they'd been injured in a mining accident, they were a veteran. You wanted to take care of those people. Everybody wanted to make sure that they had a comfortable life. Nowadays, we have people who are supposedly disabled because they're anxious. Well, who isn't? 1,000 people, last time I read, sign on to disability benefits in the UK because of stress, anxiety, and things like that, and they're taken out of the workforce. You read about people having BMWs leased by the government. They're getting personal, what is it called, a PIP, an income for life because they supposedly can't work. It is out of control. I go to the supermarket and I see people with so-called service animals. They're not blind. They don't have any actual physical disability, but they just say they do have some kind of disability. No one can prove it. I asked the supermarket manager, I had a poodle. It was nosing into the cheese in my supermarket. And it clearly was just a mangy dog that had no service capability whatsoever. And I asked the supermarket manager, why are you letting this happen? He said, we are not by policy allowed to ask her. If she says it's a service dog, we have to put up with it. So yeah, disability is a real thing, but it needs to be put back into the box.
All right, and apologies for the use of that word. Bear in mind that they are in America and maybe that word is acceptable there. But this country, it isn't, so apologies for that. But the founder of Purple, Georgina Coleman, said that all the offers on her website were privately funded by the brands, have no impact on welfare spending and exist to help reduce the extra cost of disability. Disabled households face significantly higher everyday living costs than non-disabled households. We believe disabled people should have the same freedom of choice as anyone else over where they shop and where they buy. All right, more coming up in the next hour, including...
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
It's also been dropped, and it looks like Infantino could be on the way out, as well as it being reported that the FA is set to withdraw its support from the FIFA president in the final whistle. Is it about to blow for Infantino? This is The Late Show Live.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm and humid day for many of us, especially towards the south and the east. Rain or showers, especially towards the north and the west, with thunderstorms for some. It's actually a damp start to the day for Scotland, for Northern Ireland. Heavy and persistent rain. Showers, meanwhile, moving through parts of Wales and the west of England. And the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland breaks it into showers with thunderstorms likely for Northern Ireland. These slow-moving storms could cause impacts through the afternoon and evening, especially given the time of year. Drier towards the east and southeast, and with some sunshine, and still another day with temperatures into the low 30s and high humidity. It's going to feel really quite warm. Meanwhile, not feeling warm at all across northern Scotland. Persistent rain and low cloud expected with a keen breeze from the east. Here are these lively showers across central and southern Scotland with some rumbles of thunder mixed in. Likewise, slow-moving thunderstorms continuing into the evening for Northern Ireland. Hit and miss showers, central and western England as well as Wales, interspersed by some brighter spells, but the best of the sunshine as we end the day, East Anglia and the southeast, with the warmth continuing overnight. Another humid, muggy night to come for many. Areas of clouds swirling around the United Kingdom and some showers popping up just about anywhere. Very little meaningful rainfall in the south and southeast where it's most needed, but there could be a few drops here and there. More persistent wet weather continuing for the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And a warm start to Wednesday, but actually during Wednesday we see this change in wind direction, west northwesterlies, bringing a fresher feel. Still mostly dry for England and Wales, sunny spells, and aside from a few showers in the north and west, a mostly fine day. Scotland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, damp weather continuing and feeling on the cool side, fresher conditions towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis,
In the car?
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. We're live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Coming up.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
Well, that's good to know. President Donald Trump exclusively told GB News that he hopes to have a great relationship with the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but that he must get control of energy and immigration. Do you think that Burnham will need Donald Trump's advice? Also,
200,000 people have turned up on our beaches illegally, including murderers and terrorists. That's more people than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Reform will respond by ordering His Majesty's Royal Navy into the Channel to defend Britain's borders.
Reform UK says it would deploy the Royal Navy and Royal Marines to stop all small boat crossings, even landing troops on French beaches if Paris refused to take migrants back. But is it a workable plan? And
fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
well, those proposals have been dropped, and it looks like Infantino could be on the way out, as well as being reported that the FA is set to withdraw its support for the FIFA president. Is the final whistle about to blow for Infantino? Also,
I don't know what your problem is with me, Lydia. But my problem with you is... Oh, shut up. You're boring.
Who are you talking
You're
to?
boring, Chloe.
Good,
like, seriously.
Good. You don't have to be around me.
I don't want to be around you, but at the end of the day, I ain't going anywhere. No.
oh, that was reality TV star Megan McKenna. At the height of her TOWIE fame, she's moved to Germany full-time after a terrifying machete raid at her home, which left her too frightened to live alone in the UK. So just how safe do you feel in this country?
We need to be a cost of living government, and getting that cost of living down and looking at all possible ways of doing that.
The Energy Secretary stands accused of making excuses for fuel thieves after she appeared to suggest that high prices were partly to blame for soaring crime at the petrol pump. But just what is responsible? I'm Nana Akwir, and this is The Late Show Live. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London is my panel, political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. And in Washington, D.C., US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Thank you for joining me tonight. Right, moving on to the main news this evening. The Football Association is set to withdraw its support for FIFA. President Gianni Infantino, as pressure mounts over his abandoned plan to sell a stake in the World Cup. Now it follows Wales and Sweden pulling their backing, whilst UEFA is now considering legal action over the proposal, and the European football steps up efforts to force Infantino from office. Despite the growing backlash, Infantino is refusing to resign and is expected to seek re-election next year. So with me now is the senior global reporter for the Daily Mail, Nick Pisa. So Nick, how big a story is this really?
Good evening to you. Well, yeah, it's massive, really, isn't it? We're seeing now FA associations from around the world holding up their own red card, if you like, to Gianni Infantino and saying, look, no, enough is enough. You're going to have to leave your post. at FIFA. As you said there in your introduction, we've had the Welsh FA, the Swedish FA. I understand that the Serbian FA have also withdrawn their support, and the English FA are going to announce their withdrawal of backing from him as well. And if you have someone like the English FA, who is a key player in UEFA, withdrawing their support for Gianni Infantino, then you really have to think that this trickle is going to become a torrent, and then he's going to eventually have to step down from his position. I mean, that's clearly what the federations around the world want. We've obviously seen UEFA want him to step down. He's also CONCACAF, which is the North and Central American federations, football associations, want him to step down. The Asian Football Federation has said that, yes, he should go as well. So it's really difficult to see where he's going to garner that support. But we should say at the same time, he does have some support, especially from the minor nations. People, countries like Qatar have backed him, which is interesting, really, because that's the country that provided him with a private jet to fly around to all those games in the World Cup in the United States, Mexico and Canada last month, as we saw.
But look, I mean, what was so bad about what he suggested? He obviously wanted to make money out of the elements of the World Cup, but there are so many elements of the World Cup that make money that are sort of privatised. I mean, you've got all the hoardings, the sponsorship, there's so much going on. The players are paid an absolute fortune. What did he say that was so bad?
Well, this all stems to, we are a week, they say a week is a long time in politics. It seems to be a week is a long time in football as well, although if you look at it, it was all very quick, wasn't it? He announced last Tuesday that he wanted to sell off the World Cup to the people, to private investors, looking at a way of making money. There was some suggestions it would make up to £3 billion, but there was a lot of outrage from UEFA mainly, there's not much love lost between UEFA and Gianni Infantino. They've been at daggers drawn for many, many years. UEFA threatened to pull out of the World Cup and to boycott the next World Cup if these plans weren't dropped. But yeah, it was just the way that it was done. It was quite, to quote UEFA, grubby and opaque, and all seemed to have a bit of a back room, a bit of a sinister, here you are, lads, here's a few quid if you vote this proposal through. So it didn't seem to be very clear and very transparent, and those were the key things: transparency and governancy. That Gianni Infantino was elected to be president of FIFA in 2017, and his presidentship or leadership of FIFA is up again in 2017. In 2027 next year, in February next year, there's supposed to be a Congress of FIFA where they will either vote to re-elect him, or maybe there'll be someone else who'll come in the background to take over from him, or alternatively, which is what people want, they want him to step down.
I'm surprised he didn't go after the "I feel gay, I feel gay." I mean, I don't know how did he survive that one?
Oh, you broke up. Say again there, sorry.
Well, how did he survive that one? When he did that, "I feel gay, I feel this, I feel..." Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, sorry. That was at the Qatari World Cup, wasn't it? Yeah, there were a lot of raised eyebrows when he said that. And obviously that's because there was a lot of controversy at the Qatari World Cup. The fact that there was allegations, well, we know that allegations, we know it's true, that there was rights for workers were being affected. The workers who were constructing those stadiums were working in appalling conditions. There were also eyebrows raised at his views about gay and lesbian rights, especially in somewhere like Qatar, where if you aren't gay or lesbian, that just doesn't go down at all well. But I think there's also been a groundswell of opinion with the way that this last World Cup was handled. I mean, on the pitch, there were some great matches, but off the pitch, there was a lot of controversy. I mean, all beginning with awarding President Donald Trump, who appeared to be his best buddy, this Peace Prize just before the World Cup started a few months ago. But then there seemed to be also this chumminess between the two of them, which you may remember the American player Balogun being his red card was rescinded, and he was allowed to play in a match against Belgium, the USA against Belgium, which I think a lot of people say justice prevailed, and the USA lost that game to Belgium. We also saw this controversy over hydration breaks as well. I mean, when and ever have we seen that? It was just an excuse for more money to be thrown at the game. The game was basically...
No, I think that's a bit unfair. They're playing it in some of them at kind of high altitudes, and also at really hot temperatures. I mean, a hydration break, I guess, I mean, they milked it pretty much. But I'm not opposed to that. But I'm wondering, though, him and Donald Trump, is Donald Trump supporting him still?
Good question. No, he doesn't appear to be at all. No, I mean, he was asked about if they've been in contact in the last few days. I don't know if you saw the press conference that Donald Trump was giving to the White House correspondents. He said that he hadn't spoken to him in the last few days at all. There was also talk that he was supposed to be having, Infantino was supposed to be having a meeting or a telephone conversation with Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State in the States as well, but that didn't appear to happen. I think he's trying to big up, Infantino is trying to big up that he has this support, but it looks to be on the face of it that he doesn't. And as we said at the beginning, this trickle of people demanding that he step down is going to turn into a torrent, and I think he will eventually have to go.
And not before long, many would say. Nick Pisa, thank you very much. He's the senior global reporter for the Daily Mail. With me now, my panel, political commentator Jonathan Liss, journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth, and in Washington, US political analyst Eric Ham, and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Simon, I'm going to start with you. Do you care if Infantino stays or goes? Does it matter to you?
I gotta be honest, you know, soccer, football is not the #1 sport here in the United States. We tried really hard to care about the World Cup, and we did. It was fun. And there are a lot of Americans out there who play soccer and they watch it. But in terms of money, in terms of participation, in terms of fans, it's down there below, you know, hockey, basketball, football, baseball, and probably others. So, look, corruption in sports, that we know about. And UEFA, FIFA have a reputation of being pretty horribly corrupt. So I kind of think this deal got a lot of people spun up because it seemed weird. And if this guy survives it, it'll probably just cement that reputation of corruption in football.
Obviously, there's no evidence that there is any corruption with that deal, but, you know, I hear that you're saying that there is a reputation that it feels like it does have. Jonathan Liss, you had a little smirk on your face with that one.
Well,
Why?
there's no evidence of corruption is...
Well, that particular deal,
yeah,
FIFA
is the most corrupt organisation in the world, and it's not close. It is totally rancid to the core.
Well, they would deny that they are.
Yeah, well, they may well deny. That's what corrupt people
would
do.
deny
Infantino
that.
is disgustingly corrupt.
But what evidence?
Okay,
all right.
Should be kicked out.
All right. What evidence have you got that FIFA are corrupt?
The fact that he was sort of abandoning, personally rescinding a red card at the behest of his best friend Donald Trump, the man who he invented a spurious peace prize for a few months before he invaded Iran, an entirely confected war of choice, is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard.
But you don't have any actual evidence of corruption. You're just listing them with connections that you have made and calling them corrupt. You actually haven't got any evidence.
Now he wants to sell a stake in the World Cup. Magically and mysteriously, the profits of that were going to go to Donald Trump's son-in-law's brother. I can't remember Joshua Kushner. So yes, nothing to see here, absolutely nothing wrong with any of that, and that is why the entire world community of football turned against Infantino, and that is why individual football associations are withdrawing their support for him, rightly so. And I hope that he is gone before we need to talk about him any longer.
And of course, FIFA would deny that there is any corruption there. Eric Ham.
You know, it's kind of like the wind here in the United States. This sport, you know, it came here for the World Cup. We had the final here, but now that it's over, an overwhelming majority of Americans are now looking for our version of football to begin in the fall. And so I think this is not going to be much of a ripple effect in the United States. It's just not something that people care about. And having the World Cup here in the United States was certainly, I think, an investment to try to move the needle of Americans to become interested. And I think Americans were, for the large part, while it was here. But in terms of any staying power and what that means in terms of his tenure there, is it going to move the needle? It's doubtful. And if he's looking for President Donald Trump to provide him a lifeline, if it's a way of lining his pockets, he will. But otherwise, I think, as we know, President Donald Trump looks out for President Donald Trump.
All right, Candice.
Yeah, I was similar to you. I sort of didn't really understand the outrage towards the deal, because I was like, okay, so what is corrupt about it? Because the Thrive Capital, Joshua Kushner's company, is a completely above-board company. It's invested in Instagram and Spotify, and apparently they pulled out very quickly. They were totally taken aback by the backlash. But based on what Nick Pisa has said, it just sounds like Infantino has made a lot of enemies, and there's huge tensions between FIFA and UEFA, so that seems why it's all soured like this.
Oh, well, I've got to be honest, I couldn't really give two hoots whether he stays or goes. I mean, I like football, but, you know, I think the whole thing is just a big money machine. You know, so I'm not quite sure why they're all up in arms at him suggesting that maybe they should make more money. But let's move on. Let's talk about former Towie star Megan McKenna. She says that she's moved to Germany full-time after a terrifying machete raid at her home that left her too terrified to stay and live alone in the UK. McKenna says that 3 masked intruders armed with machetes and baseball bats broke into their house while she was home alone, stealing jewellery after smashing through a wall into her dressing room. She says that the ordeal changed her forever and that she's no longer felt safe living in Britain. So what does this case say about the lived experience of those fleeing Britain because of crime? With me now, my panel, political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth, and in Washington, D.C., political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Candice, I'll start with you.
Yes, this isn't the sort of thing that you associate with Britain. Armed people, well, I don't know if they were armed, but burglars
with
entering
machetes,
with machetes.
With machetes,
yeah,
you do, yes.
Entering your home. I mean, I lived in Johannesburg for about 11 years, and when I was a child, some people tried to break into our house, and I will never forget it. My mum ran into my room in the middle of the night and scooped me out of bed, took me to her bedroom, and they pressed the burglar alarm, which scared them away. It was an utterly terrifying experience. I can imagine that she is changed forever, and I think it's so sad that she felt she had to flee her country for safety. Really, really, really disgusting.
Well, you guys in America probably listening to this thinking, well, in America they'd usually have guns, Eric.
You know, it takes me back to an athlete, Sean Taylor, who played for the Washington Redskins here in the United States, and he was hurt, he was rehabbing, and he was at his home in Miami, and there were burglars that came into his house, and because he had been arrested, he could not actually have a gun, but the burglars actually had guns, and all he had to protect his family, his girlfriend and his small child, was a machete, and unfortunately he was shot and killed, and it was something that just caused tremendous hurt throughout the entire Washington, D.C. community. And so this type of incident where you're talking about and that happened there is something that we see happen, unfortunately, all too often in the United States, and crime is a problem. And even though now we're seeing that crime is going down across the board, even in many crime-ridden cities, if you take a city like Baltimore, which is only about 40 miles away from the nation's capital, the crime is going down. But that has always been a very difficult issue to wrap itself around. And like everything in the United States, it too has become increasingly polarized. And we see how oftentimes politicians use it. And of course, it's one of the reasons, you know, there's this back and forth. Should more money go to combat crime through deterrence, or should we just arm police? But of course, that still is a battle that we continue to see wage every day in the United States.
Jonathan, do you feel safe walking home at nights and things like that? Do you think this country is a place that you want to live? Do you think that Megan is right, that she was so frightened that she decided perhaps she didn't want to be in this country?
Well, I think that, you know, if anyone feels that way, that's obviously terribly sad, and that's a matter for them. I can't tell people how to feel. I've lived in this city, London, my entire life. I have no intention of living anywhere else in my life. I love other places, but London is my home. Britain is my home. I feel safe walking the streets. Obviously, you know, I know that I'm a big man. Might feel differently if I were a woman, of course. There are problems with crime. Do I feel safe every second of the day? No. But yes, this is my city. There are problems, but I will never abandon it.
And Simon?
Well, I spent 20 years of my career overseas, 8 years in Africa and other places where we had alarms, we had strong safe rooms, we had doors that are pretty hard to get through, and security was a real issue, armed guards. And when I come home, that's one of the nice things is Americans often don't have fences. When I was growing up, you could leave your door open and your car unlocked and nothing happened. There are places where you definitely don't want to do that, and where I'm glad we have a Second Amendment of our Constitution that allows you to arm yourself. Because if you have people trying to break your wall down, apparently this poor woman, they were trying to break the wall down with baseball bats. You know, sometimes a gun is a necessary implement to keep yourself and your family safe.
All right, thank you for your thoughts on that. Right, in other news, Donald Trump has dismissed recent polls showing that his approval ratings are falling, insisting his real polling numbers are the highest they've ever been. The US president accused the media of publishing fake and corrupt polls, but provided no evidence to support his claims. Recent surveys suggest that Donald Trump's approval has slipped amid the ongoing Iran conflict, with several polls putting support at around 1/3 of American adults. Well, with me now is my panel. Let's see what they think about that. OK, so I'll start with you, Eric Ham, because Donald Trump is polling. Is it falling?
Yes, like a rock it is, in fact. Right now, he's got the worst approval ratings of any president at this point in his second term. There is growing concern that his party could lose the midterm elections in November. Many Americans are deeply upset that the president simply has not held to his word of lowering the cost of basic everyday goods. He entered into a war of choice in Iran, which is politically unpopular. And right now, many Americans, including many MAGA, are simply not happy with this president. Former loyal foot soldier Marjorie Taylor Greene is lashing out. Others are as well. And now there is reporting that the president simply does not care what his poll numbers mean and how they could affect his party. And so what we're seeing here is a president who is becoming increasingly more insulated. And all presidents live in a bubble. But when you have a man like this president who is deeply unpopular, but yet and still has this insatiable desire to be loved and demand loyalty, I think what we're seeing here is there is a massive pushback on this president. And if he loses, if his party loses the midterm elections, then that officially moves him into lame duck status, which we know the president is not going to be happy about that. And we know that could lead to a number of other recriminations, given what we know this president is prepared to do, as we saw from January 6th.
Simon Hankinson.
Well, you know, polls can be way off. We saw in the 2024 election, there were polls. There's one famous one, I think, in Iowa, where it had 13%. It was off. Trump won that state, and he was told he was going to lose it. So he has a point. Polls can swing, but you know, in the aggregate over time, they do tell a story, and Americans tend to care more, especially in midterms, about kitchen sink issues, the economy, the price of gas. They're not happy about the idea of a long war in Iran. So those things all will weigh over time on the president's popularity, and I think he knows that. And I think he's behind the scenes probably doing his absolute best to get that popularity rating back where he wants it to be.
Candice.
Yes, I think the midterms historically, from what I know about US politics, that's usually where voters will voice their dissatisfaction, and most incumbents do often lose seats in the midterm elections, so it's definitely something to be expected. I understand Trump's skepticism around polls, because I think when it comes to his support, a lot of pollsters aren't very good at gauging that, because I think so many of his supporters come from the hard to reach, and there are very, very few polling companies who know how to get their opinions accurately.
And also some of the way they frame a question, you know, so let's give an example and say for the net zero question, they say, would you like to help stop climate change? People would say yes. They would immediately assume that is a vote for net zero, but that might not be a vote for net zero. We'd all agree that we want to improve the climate, but not that we'd all agree that net zero would be the way. And I get concerned the way they question in these polls. Jonathan Liss.
Well, I mean, it's absurd. Donald Trump is clearly poll after poll. These are not amateurs. These are respected polling organisations that have been in existence for decades and decades. They all show the same story, that Donald Trump is hemorrhaging support for a variety of reasons, all of them of his own making. And he is just does what he always does. He is the sorest loser who ever lived. If he loses an election, it's because he was cheated of it. If he has to win every golf tournament at his golf courses, because even though he's an 80-year-old man, and golf experts say it's literally impossible for him to have scored what he claimed to have scored, because people are terrified of letting him lose, because he's a mad Tudor emperor, and they fear the repercussions of their personal lives if he is opposed in any way. This is absolutely no way to run the most advanced, supposedly, democracy in the entire world, and it's a great stain on the American Republic that such a man could ever have risen to the position he's in.
Well, don't mince your words.
No, I won't.
I won't. Does anyone want to say anything about that? I'm sure Eric must have something to say about that.
Well, you know, all we have to do, if you want to get a clear indication of where his poll numbers stand, since Donald Trump came back into office, since he won that election in 2024, Democrats have won every special election since then, which makes clear, and we're talking about in deep red areas, places like Mississippi, Georgia, some of the reddest states in the country where Donald Trump did amazingly well. But yet we have seen Democrat win special election after special election. They've been undefeated in special elections. And even in a place like Texas, ruby red Texas, you've got a Senate race, which I believe could be one of those races that will determine whether or not Donald Trump's party maintains control in Washington. And we see a Democrat that is winning based on all of the polling data. It's one thing to have one poll that may look like an outlier, but we're talking about a number of polls. And the reason why Donald Trump is performing so poorly is because you have Latino voters, who specifically Latino men, where Donald Trump got a bump in 2024. In fact, he did better than I think any Republican before him in 2024 in terms of both Latino men and African American men. But what we're seeing now is many Latinos have begun to swing back to Democrats. One of the reasons, of course, could be because of what we've seen in terms of the violence by ICE agents on the ground. And so I think Donald Trump, we know, will lash out, but the numbers, they tell a story, but also elections make clear where those numbers are actually going. And all we have to do is look at elections, and those elections tell us that Donald Trump is, in fact, a very unpopular president right now.
Yeah, but polling for the Democrats is incredibly low as well. Like they might be gaining something, but they're not doing well either. Yeah, and then you had that terrible Joe Biden, who clearly wasn't capable.
That might be true, but like I just said, you can look at elections, look at what people are actually doing when they go to the poll. Don't just focus on what polling data says, but look at what voters do when they go to the polls. And in special election after special election, where you had Democrats running against Republicans in ruby red states, you had Democrats coming out on top. And even now, in many of these Senate races, you have Democrats who are outraising Republicans, and also you see in the polling data where Democrats are leading. And of course, one of the reasons for that is because of the president's approval ratings. Now, of course, you often see a president begin to lose some of the sheen in midterm off-year elections, so that's not unusual. But what is unusual is for Donald Trump's poll numbers to be as low as they are right now. In fact, Donald Trump's numbers are not only low for him, but they are at the worst of any president except for Richard Nixon right before he left office. And I think that speaks to the the danger of this party right now.
Simon, might it be because of Iran? Some people have lost favour. I mean, even his own MAGA supporters are turning against him. They're really angry because he said that he wasn't going to go into any foreign wars. And now here he is, the instigator, that they see it that way, of Iran, a war that it actually appears to be unwinnable.
I do think Iran is a drag on popularity for the president. I can't deny that, even though I support the goals of the Iran campaign to stop them having nuclear weapons and to stop them sponsoring terrorism around the world and killing Americans. But, you know, you have a choice in an election. I get so tired of the polls. They go up, they go down. You have a choice between two candidates. For me, the choice was obvious. Now you have Democrats who are running on basically open borders. You have a Democrat candidate in Texas, Texas of all places, who's, you know, a vegan who believes God is non-binary, and so again, the choices in these places are all pretty stark and pretty clear. I would love to see Trump kind of go back to the basics, to what he was elected to do, to deliver for the people who put him in office, and maybe ignore these polls and just get on with the job. Because look, he's not up for election again. The midterms could be a bloodbath, but as Candace pointed out, that's pretty much always the case in every midterm election. The president's party loses some seats. So let's just get on with the job and ignore the noise.
I'll put that question about Iran to the London panel. Do you think that Iran is the main reason why Donald Trump's polling has sank?
Yeah, I think so. I think many in the MAGA base didn't want any involvement in foreign wars, but I think as Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has made clear, that is just not realistic in the world that we live in. And I think that they have a vision that they want to realize, and I think it's important that they do that.
I'm sorry, that's an outrageous thing to say. Donald Trump was elected on the specific promise that he would not declare war on Iran.
That's interesting.
I'm sorry, Candace. You can't say that it was necessary. Donald Trump literally stood on a platform of not waging any new wars. Donald Trump, the whole party was Kamala Harris is a candidate of the Iran war. She's a candidate of World War III. Donald Trump is a candidate of reducing prices of eggs. What has happened is the price of soared, and there's been a war in Iran. The people voted. If Donald Trump hadn't mentioned Iran, it would be bad enough. But when you literally go to the people on the basis of not doing something and then you do it, people have every right to be furious, and that is what has happened.
But the situation can change, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was never put to the American people. It's been incredibly popular with the American people and people around the world in every country apart from Israel, and it's unpopular with pretty much everyone apart from the most hardened MAGA base.
Can I say one thing? Look at how people have shifted on Ukraine. I think many in the MAGA base were very skeptical of the Ukraine war, but have started to come around to actually, it was important that we supported Ukraine. So these things aren't necessarily clear at the beginning, but over time, it can become clear.
Russia invaded Ukraine in the legal war. Donald Trump chose to invade Iran, chose to declare war.
Look at what Iran are doing. They were behind October 7th.
Well, Hamas was behind October 7th.
No, but Hamas is their proxy. They are funded by Iran.
Look, you can say what you like about Iran, and we can have that conversation. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump literally won an election on the basis of not having any new wars. You cannot deny that.
No, there was more than that.
If you then declare that war, that you expressly won an election saying you weren't going to, people are going to be incredibly angry about it. And they are.
Do you ignore?
If he'd want to do that, he should have said, yes, I'm going to declare war on Iran.
But do you ignore intelligence reports that Iran is sprinting towards a nuclear weapon?
People have been saying that for 50 years. And Don Benedetto has been trying to declare this war for 40 years. It's been total calamity.
All right, let's bring in Eric. Eric.
You had Donald Trump's own head of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, that said that Iran was not an imminent threat to the United States. More importantly, you had last year where we attacked 3 nuclear facilities that Iran had, and we were told that those facilities were obliterated. But then here we are now that you've got the United States engaged in a war that I might add still does not have authorization and force from Congress, and now you've got the United States dangerously low on missile interceptors. In fact, now when this war began, the United States had 2,300 Patriot missile interceptors. We are now under 900, around 837, and it takes years to actually build them. In addition to that, we know that President Donald Trump has practically been begging Congress to appropriate more money for this war, which they haven't done, and they will likely refuse to do. So you've got the United States now completely vulnerable because we don't have the weapons or the resources. You have Congress that is refusing to give the president the money. In addition, you have the president refusing to get authorization for the war. And if Iran was so dangerous and they were so bad and that something desperately needed to be done, why is it that no one else has joined the United States in this war and that we are fighting it all by ourselves? And on top of that, you've got Iran, who we were told had no nuclear facilities, had no nuclear capability, literally fighting us on parity. So clearly right now, what we're seeing here is not only is the United States losing, but the United States has now been made more vulnerable. Iran has been made stronger. And as we see, they are now the regional hegemon, and there's nothing President Donald Trump can do about it.
And the other point...
I just want to bring in Simon, because he's Simon, what are you thinking?
I mean, there's just so much there. It's a laundry list. I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, look, we call it armchair quarterbacking here in the U.S., where you have people who don't have the intelligence in front of them. They don't have I don't know how Eric knows that we have 837 Patriot batteries or missiles. That's impressive, because I didn't know that.
Interceptors.
Yeah, sometimes you have to leave stuff to the people you elect, and you can't nickel and dime them along the way. They're going to do things you like, do things you don't like, but the big strategy you got to leave to the big guy that you elected, and not wait till the game is over and then judge it. It's too early for me.
It's a democracy. He went to the polls saying he wouldn't do it. People voted for him because they didn't want it, and then he did it. He's not an autocrat. He's not God. He's not a dictator. The American people are in charge, not the president, and that, I'm afraid, is where you and your party have got things wrong.
I don't need to say, what do you mean my party? I don't actually belong to any political party.
Your side of the argument.
You elect in this country, you elect a president every 4 years, and then he does run the country.
Yes.
It's not like you have a referendum of the people every time you have a decision.
I'm sorry. He's elected on a platform.
He had a platform like every other politician.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a right to ignore it.
Show me a politician on the left or the right that kept campaign promises.
Well, one of the promises that he made,
aspirational.
One of the promises that he made was that Iran would not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So he's sticking to that promise.
And he was saying he wouldn't invade it. That was the whole point.
But they were building a nuclear weapon.
He said he'd obliterate it in June. Why is there need to invade it in March?
Well, clearly it wasn't obliterated, was it?
Well, you can't have it both ways.
Well,
you cannot have it both ways.
Maybe, look, you might think you've done it, then you realise you haven't.
And the other, can we just talk about the fundamental point now, is that what the US and Iran are apparently negotiating is a deal to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, a waterway which was completely open before the United States declared war on Iran without the approval of Congress. That is how much of a failure it is. No one's talking about nuclear material anymore. No one's talking about regime change. Certainly no one's talking about supporting the Iranian people. They are talking about the Strait of Hormuz and only the Strait of Hormuz, and that was completely not an issue before Donald Trump decided to make it one. And that is a damning indictment of his legacy.
They're also talking about nuclear weapons. Absolutely. Regime change was not one of the absolute goals in the beginning. He did talk about it. He talks about a lot of things, but that wasn't a red line goal. Getting rid of their nuclear program and getting them to stop sponsoring terrorists. And yes, I agree with Candace. They sponsor Hamas. They pay for Hezbollah. They have proxies. The Houthis are their guys. They have paid people to shoot at us for most of my life since 1979.
And no one is denying any of that. No one is saying that that is not an issue. In fact, that's why we know that there have been negotiations taking place between Lebanon and Israel. And in addition to that, President Donald Trump has said that Israel will actually pull out of Lebanon, but yet they still have not done so. So clearly what we're seeing here is the agreement that was established between Lebanon and Israel. Israel is not honoring that. And then the agreement, and the reason why this war between the United States and Iran escalated is because President Donald Trump recognized how desperate it was that the Strait of Hormuz remained closed, and he attempted to try to find a new lane to open, that the United States would open up. Very smart, very cunning move by the president to do so. Unfortunately, it failed. And so what we're seeing here is that the United States cannot find any lanes to secure that will allow ships to pass in that region. And what we're seeing now, it is crippling the global economy. So you've got global economy that is crippled, and you've got Iran that is more dangerous today than they were just 6 months ago.
So you would have just done nothing after they executed some 40,000 of their own people. No, but that's how it began, in a sense. So you would have just sat by and then let them carry on. If they could make nuclear weapons, you would have just sat back and let that carry on.
That is not even a question that we should be discussing.
Well,
because
why not?
They
why
killed
not?
40,000 people.
I
And who
decide
did
what we
anything
discuss. I'm
about
asking
it?
you
Did the UK
whether
do
you
anything
just sat
about
back.
it? Did France do anything about it? Did Germany do anything about it? No one did anything about it.
should have
Did the
done
UN
something,
suggest anything should be done about it? No. And so now, again, what you're doing here is you're moving the goalpost, suggesting this is why the president should have gone and 40,000 people were killed, so therefore the United States needs to go in. But if 40,000 people were if that was so bad and the United States needed to go in, then why is the UK not standing with the United States?
Well, they should have.
Why is no one standing with the United States since this is so bad and this needed to happen?
Eric, there's another point, isn't there, which is that it's completely bogus to say that the United States is going to sort of drop bombs on a country that is behaving despicably towards its own citizens. In that case, the United States will be declaring war on about 100 countries at any one time of repressive regimes. It's absolute nonsense. It insults the intelligence of anybody to say that the United States will be declaring war on a country because it's being nasty or killing its citizens. Of course, that wasn't the reason for it.
No, part of it was because they didn't want them to get nuclear weapons, which was part of the deal that Donald Trump said when he came into office. And if he thought they were near there, then he decided to try and step in, especially after they executed up to 40,000 of their own people. Don't talk when I'm talking, please, Jonathan. I've given you plenty of time. So really and truly, I'm disappointed that the UK didn't get involved sooner in a better way, and the others should have also helped as well. Yep. It's a disgrace, because they'll expect America to come to their aid should Iran dare and build those nuclear weapons. So I think we need to keep our eyes very wide open and watch out for Iran, seeing as the way they've behaved towards Israel. It's frightening. But look, loads more still to come on The Late Show live, including...
We need to be a cost of living government, and getting that cost of living down and looking at all possible ways of doing that.
And of course, the voice of Andy Burnham. The Energy Secretary stands accused of making excuses for fuel thieves after she appeared to suggest that high prices were partly to blame for soaring crime at the petrol pump. But was that just irresponsible? This is The Late Show live only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm and humid day for many of us, especially towards the south and the east. Rain or showers, especially towards the north and the west, with thunderstorms for some. It's actually a damp start to the day for Scotland, for Northern Ireland. Heavy and persistent rain. Showers, meanwhile, moving through parts of Wales and the west of England. And the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland breaks it into showers, with thunderstorms likely for Northern Ireland. These slow-moving storms could cause impacts through the afternoon and evening, especially given the time of year. Drier towards the east and southeast, and with some sunshine, and still another day with temperatures into the low 30s and high humidity. It's going to feel really quite warm. Meanwhile, not feeling warm at all across northern Scotland. Persistent rain and low cloud expected with a keen breeze from the east. Here are these lively showers across central and southern Scotland with some rumbles of thunder mixed in. Likewise, slow-moving thunderstorms continuing into the evening for Northern Ireland. Hit and miss showers, central and western England as well as Wales, interspersed by some brighter spells, but the best of the sunshine as we end the day, East Anglia and the southeast, with the warmth continuing overnight. Another humid, muggy night to come for many. Areas of clouds swirling around the United Kingdom and some showers popping up just about anywhere. Very little meaningful rainfall in the south and southeast where it's most needed, but there could be a few drops here and there. More persistent wet weather continuing for the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And a warm start to Wednesday, but actually during Wednesday we see this change in wind direction, west to northwesterlies, bringing a fresher feel. Still mostly dry for England and Wales, sunny spells, and aside from a few showers in the north and west, a mostly fine day. Scotland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, damp weather continuing and feeling on the cool side, fresher conditions towards the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show live on GB News. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, the Energy Secretary has been accused of making excuses for fuel theft after linking soaring petrol prices to a rise in motorists driving off without paying. Drivers have reportedly stolen an average of nearly £200,000 worth of fuel from forecourts every day since the start of the Iran war and the resulting oil crisis. Miata Fambula said that people were under huge pressure from the cost of fuel and insisted that there is never any justification for theft, although she's just made a justification. Meanwhile, Reform UK's energy spokesperson and Deputy Leader Richard Tice has accused the government of being soft on crime. Well, let me now speak with Labour commentator Simon Nash. Simon, welcome to the programme. All right, Simon, let's talk about it. Her saying that is a little bit softy on crime, really, isn't it? Everything's been really expensive, so people are stealing stuff.
Well, it sounds like that at first, but she did very quickly correct herself when Nick Ferrari said, well, you know, it's nothing to do with the cost of living, they're just thieves. And she said, well, absolutely, it is. I think she just felt like mentioning, you know, the cost of living as the government is seeking to do more and more to address that as, you know, as a political statement. And that's absolutely fine. And I think, you know, like shoplifting, you know, the cost of living might have led to an increase in shoplifting, but in reality, it's probably criminal gangs taking advantage of this, stealing food and razor blades and other things en masse to sell to people cheaply. And I suspect the same is with fuel. It's a mass organised crime movement selling fuel on the black market. Yeah, the cost of living helps.
Well, it's interesting because she's a proponent of net zero, and some would argue that part of the problem and the reason we're in this crisis is because of net zero, but she's not mentioned that. So she's quite happy to mention the cost of living, but she's not prepared to accept or acknowledge the part of that is down to policies that the government, in terms of fuel or taxes and also net zero, are responsible for.
Well, interesting point. I would disagree. Now, most most new car sales are of electric cars, which is reducing the demand for petrol and diesels. Actually, their net zero is actually weaning us off fossil fuels and thereby...
Not really, Simon, because I'm afraid that we're extracting our electricity still from the usual sources. So we're not extracting it from windmills and things like that for much of the energy we're using in terms of electricity. So, you know,
Well,
it's not really making much difference.
Well, it is, because that's not petrol and diesel. I mean, actually, renewable energy has gone up from about 1% under Tony Blair to about 32%, plus nuclear energy, which is about 20%. So that's over 50%, low carbon electricity, actually. So that is then feeding into people's cars. And actually, a lot of people that have electric cars have a solar panel on their roof. So this is actually getting us off fossil fuels. It's highly effective. And I'm sure tonight you probably got an electric taxi in and will home as well. So it's the future. It is reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. And net zero, I mean, if we didn't have the net zero agenda, the price of oil would have gone up even more, and people would be paying, way more at the pumps. And there might even be maybe more fuel theft for opportunist gangs trying to nick a load to sell in the local council estate on the black market. So, yeah.
Well, look, fossil fuels account for about 32% of the total UK energy generation. That's 2026 figures taken from gov.uk. So a lot of the electricity that they're extracting is from fossil fuels, you see. And so therefore you're saying that, but it's not really, at the moment we're getting a lot of our electricity generated that way. So, this whole green revolution isn't really contributing that much at all. And if you believe that, if she's talking about the cost of living and saying that's one of the reasons why people are stealing, then she should consider that one of those elements that has made the cost of living so high is net zero.
Well, you said 32% fossil fuel. I mean, I think you probably meant, 32% renewable energy. And then we do have nuclear energy, which a lot of people on the ONS don't say it's renewable, but it is low carbon or zero carbon nuclear energy. So that is more than 50%, and that's going up all the time. The biggest home energy supply is Octopus Energy, and they are 100% renewable energy supplier. So it's going up and up. And again, under Tony Blair, it was 1% renewable energy. God bless him, he did lots to increase that, and it's gone up and up through the government that followed, and it's going up under this current government. So, the future is electric cars, people producing their own energy. I mean, a sort of more right-wing sort of libertarian view would be every home producing their own energy.
Well, that would be great.
Well, it would, and I think the left and right agree on that. If every home had their own solar panel running their electric car, that means no Arab countries
but they don't want us to have that,
funding
Simon.
terrorism.
We should all be off-grid doing that in our own homes, of course, but they don't want us to have that. See, because if you could set it all up in your own home, have your own battery, your own solar panel, your own tiny little windmill or whatever you're going to use to help to generate even more, they wouldn't have that, you see. So they want to have pylons everywhere. They want to transport wind energy all across the UK to create electricity, when actually you're better off using that wind in the locality where it is, and then using whatever is efficient in whatever form of renewable is efficient in whatever locality you are, rather than transporting it all across. But they don't want to do that. They don't want us to have that.
Well, I think it's a mixture. There's a great author. I run Green Drinks London. We had a chap called Nick Rosen. He's written a whole book on, how to live off grid, and you can in fact do that in your townhouse to an extent. Greenpeace have lobbied for a sort of decentralised energy system, so you don't lose all the energy through the national grid. You'd have local renewable energy sources. Even if you had like a local fossil fuel or very small scale nuclear reactor in every town, that would be a solution to both the cost of living and climate crisis. And,
but they don't want us to do that, Simon, because then we wouldn't need them. The big companies don't, because that'll be the end of them. Simon, I've got to go, but it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Good to see you again. All right, let's throw it out to the panel. Jonathan Liss, what do you think? I mean, cost of living, Mieta Fambula is trying to sort of say, oh, well, people are stealing more because the cost of living is high and people are driving off. That's why.
Well, look, I mean, we talk a lot about shoplifting and theft. And of course, there are reasons why people do this. That doesn't mean it's a justification, but it is offering a kind of explanation about it. It's not saying that it's good to steal.
But she's got power to reduce some of that, and she's not really talking about that.
Well, I mean, she's been in the job for 2 weeks, so we'll see what proposals she puts forward.
Well, let's see if she can reduce the cost of energy.
Obviously, we see that fuel prices are at their highest I think even since the start of the Iran war right now, having gone down a little bit, now the war is back in full swing, so we'll see what happens with that. But obviously that is a matter beyond the control of the British government, which was, as you know, against this war from the start, and that is the reason for such high oil prices.
All right, let's go to Candice.
Yeah, I mean, Miata Fambula is a minister. She should not in any way be providing justifications, however gently she does it, for people breaking the law. She is there to uphold the law. There's no excuse for doing that. I often see that from people on the left. They will justify crime by saying people are desperate. That's not true. People make a moral choice to do these things.
I do agree.
It's justifying it. It's saying that we disapprove of this, we disagree with it, we condemn it, people will be punished, but we can also understand why people are doing it, people are suffering. Surely both those things can be true.
Because of us. They're suffering because of us, because we've messed up the whole energy network and charging a fortune for a tax on fuel, and you're not prepared to reduce VAT or something like that to make it cheaper for the customer. So, you know, I guess people will still
something. There's a cost of living crisis across the board, isn't there?
There might be a cost of living crisis across the board, but if you are not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And unfortunately, I believe these people are part of the problem. The way they've set things up, the way things are taxed, and she could help to fix that. So she should get on with that instead of trying to find excuses or justifications for people. But as the Energy Secretary told LBC, we're very, very conscious of the issue, and this is something that obviously we're working on alongside the Home Office, who in the end will be the ones dealing with the crime and any sort of theft. Interesting. All right, well, listeners, stay with us because there's more coming up in the next hour, including this.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense.
Yes, it is common sense. US basketball player Sophie Cunningham has found herself at the centre of controversy after she spoke out against transgender women being in, so this is biological males basically, being in women's sports. We'll be having that debate. What do you think? Should trans women, biological males, be allowed to play against females, that is women? This is The Late Show, live only on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm and humid day for many of us, especially towards the south and the east. Rain or showers, especially towards the north and the west, with thunderstorms for some. It's actually a damp start to the day for Scotland, for Northern Ireland. Heavy and persistent rain. Showers, meanwhile, moving through parts of Wales and the west of England. And the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland breaks it into showers with thunderstorms likely for Northern Ireland. These slow-moving storms could cause impacts through the afternoon and evening, especially given the time of year. Drier towards the east and southeast, and with some sunshine, and still another day with temperatures into the low 30s and high humidity. It's going to feel really quite warm. Meanwhile, not feeling warm at all across northern Scotland. Persistent rain and low cloud expected with a keen breeze from the east. Here are these lively showers across central and southern Scotland with some rumbles of thunder mixed in. Likewise, slow-moving thunderstorms continuing into the evening for Northern Ireland. Hit and miss showers, central and western England as well as Wales, interspersed by some brighter spells, but the best of the sunshine as we end the day, East Anglia and the southeast, with the warmth continuing overnight. Another humid, muggy night to come for many. Areas of clouds swirling around the United Kingdom and some showers popping up just about anywhere. Very little meaningful rainfall in the south and southeast where it's most needed, but there could be a few drops here and there. More persistent wet weather continuing for the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And a warm start to Wednesday, but actually during Wednesday we see this change in wind direction, west to northwesterlies, bringing a fresher feel. Still mostly dry for England and Wales, sunny spells, and aside from a few showers in the north and west, a mostly fine day. Scotland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, damp weather continuing and feeling on the cool side, fresher conditions towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Hello, welcome. We're live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Coming up.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
Well, President Donald Trump obviously exclusively told GB News that he hopes to have a great relationship with the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. He's a great diplomat, is Donald Trump. He's always nice, even if they've said horrible things about him. But he said that we must get control of energy and immigration. Do you think that Andy Burnham will heed Donald Trump's advice? Also,
200,000 people have turned up on our beaches illegally, including murderers and terrorists. That's more people than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Reform will respond by ordering His Majesty's Royal Navy into the Channel to defend Britain's borders.
Reform UK said that it would deploy the Royal Navy and Royal Marines to stop all small boat crossings, even landing troops on French beaches if Paris refused to take migrants back. But is it a workable plan? And
on that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense.
It is absolutely common sense, of course it is. US basketball player Sophie Cunningham has found herself at the centre of controversy after she spoke out against transgender women, so biological males, being in women's sports. We'll be having that debate later. Also,
we will teach our children to love our country, to honour our history,
and to always respect our great American flag.
Donald Trump is stepping up his campaign against what he calls woke ideology, ordering reforms at the Smithsonian Institution after the White House accused one of America's best-known museums of promoting an anti-American version of history. Whose side are you on? Also,
should the wealthy be ready to pay more tax on their assets and their properties?
4 days in, I mean, you're asking me now to write, the next budget or, the next manifesto.
No, she's just asking you to answer the question. Well, those looking for a tax on the rich can go to sunny California, where Democrats have endorsed a billionaire tax despite opposition from the governor, Gavin Newsom. But are wealth taxes a way to tackle inequality or just a left-wing gimmick? I'm Nana Acquia, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London, my panel, political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. And in Washington, D.C., US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Thank you for joining us this evening. Well, Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham was loudly booed every time she touched the ball during her side's WNBA game against the Minnesota Lynx. The hostile reception follows Cunningham's recent comments opposing transgender women's biological males from competing in women's sport, a stance that she says she still stands by. The 29-year-old has insisted that she wants to extend love to everyone, but says protecting female athletes remains her priority. So is this a block on inclusivity, or is it yet another instance of women standing up for common sense and fair play? Well, with me now is political commentator Jonathan Liss and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth, and in Washington, US political analyst Eric Ham and senior research fellow for the Heritage Foundation, Simon Hankinson. Right, Candice, as you are the only other biological female, I shall come to you and ask you, what do you think?
Well, I'm not surprised. Trans activists are the most intolerant group of people you will ever find. That is why they would loudly boo a woman playing a basketball game. It's a movement just it's a deeply misogynistic movement. It's the only movement I know where it's okay to say that you'll violently attack somebody who you disagree with. Look at J.K. Rowling. Look at how she's become a figure of hate to these people. She is a witch that needs to be burned. Every woman that questions their worldview, this is the treatment that they get.
And I find it quite odd that anyone would even question this. It's quite obvious that women are biological females. I have to say biological females because we end up with this situation where people can say they're a woman even if they are male. But women are, in a sense, mainly the weaker biological sex. So when you are playing a physical contact sport like basketball, which is deeply physical and there's a lot of contact, and you've got a ball where you can throw it and bounce it and everything else like that, and it is heavy, and if a man throws a ball, they can throw it further than a woman, or they can bounce more than a woman, or their hips are wider, and so on and so forth, which makes it a lot easier for a man. Many men are taller than women in general. It seems a bit odd, don't you think, Jonathan, that anyone would expect men and women to be competing in the same sport for this?
Nana, as I tell you every time we talk about this, clearly there have to be some kind of guidelines and limits for example, testosterone and other hormones for people who are competing in women's sports. No one is saying there should be a free-for-all, that anyone who self-identifies as a woman should be allowed to just join women's sports. Nobody is saying that, not even the most devout trans activists. Everyone agrees there have to be some kind of limits to make it fair. But, you are always going to have sort of genetic, sort of advantages that sort of certain people have. People are always going to have certain advantages, and I don't think it's fair to exclude people from playing sport just because they're trans.
They won't be excluded, they just don't play against women. I mean,
look.
OK, so...
I think that the backlash against trans rights has been so extreme, so totalising in just the last 10 or 15 years that there is a backlash to trans people not only participating in sport, but to participating in any aspect of life. That, I think, is an outrage.
Rubbish.
No, it
there's a
is
backlash.
Not.
There's a
They're
backlash.
not allowed to be in the women's
There's a
institutes anymore.
backlash.
They're not allowed to go
because they're
outside
not women.
and use toilets anymore.
They're not women. There's not a backlash. You don't use a toilet if you are not a woman. A woman's toilet's for the women.
Women
are men.
Are now not allowed. Trans women who present as women are now not allowed to use women's toilets.
Because
they then
they're
have
men.
to go into men's toilets where they risk even more violence from men.
But that's a problem for men. That's not a problem for women.
Exactly. Why should it be a woman's problem?
Why should trans women have to pay that price?
Why
And
should
trans
women have to
men,
pay
by
that
the way,
price?
Candice, who might be more masculine than most men you see on the street, are therefore, by this logic that we're going by biology now, should be fully entitled, according to your logic, to use the women's toilets, which presumably you'd object to, because they look more blokey than I do.
I wouldn't presume... No, they're women. They should use the women's toilets.
Well, a lot of women would object to people who, for all intents and purposes, are men and who look like the blokiest men you've ever seen. They would not want those men using the toilets. But according to this logic that you and people like you are advocating, that is where we'll go.
No, we need boundaries.
Hold on a second.
Boundaries protect women.
We're women. So if you're a woman, you don't want a biological male, be they trans because they've just dressed up to make themselves look like a woman, in your female private space. So for example, when we're changing, so in these sports where the changing rooms are, a trans woman, so a biological male, will go into the same space as the women. And that was the same with the swimming as well.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. That should not be right.
But then you never have anything to say when we talk about trans men who are incredibly masculine and blokey because they've had all the testosterone hormones. Anyone meeting them would think that they were men. But because of your logic, your obsession with biology, those are biological women, and so if they try to use the women's facilities, you'd have a problem with that as well, wouldn't you?
Well, I think they should use...
Because you say they were men, they should be in your room.
No, listen, I think the trans... If they
so you wouldn't have any more problem.
If you don't want to go into a biological space, by law, all companies have to provide a disabled or a third space, which is a neutral space, and I would say use that one. And I think most of the trans women that I've met think it's ludicrous that...
It's like trans men.
Most of the trans women that I've met, and I haven't met many trans men, I've met one trans man, and he would be quite happy to use that third space. Why can't he use the women's space? Well, he could do, but there's a third space.
Women will complain about it.
You
think he was a man because he looks like a man.
Yes, but
and you complain.
OK, let's go over to America and see what they think there, because I'd like to speak to the panel there. Eric, what do you make of this? I mean, I think it's quite straightforward. I don't know why people are so obsessed with having to use, if you're a man, wanting to compete against a woman when you know full well that you're stronger, you've got wider frames, bigger hips, more bone density. It's totally unfair, isn't it, really?
Which is why it's so curious that Sophie Cunningham, a mid-player at best in the WNBA, who recognizes that the window is closing on her career, why would she actually say this? Because in the United States, 29 states have already banned trans women from competing in sports with women. In addition to that, we know 7 states have codified it into their state law, banning trans women from competing. We also know that in the NCAA, collegiate sports, trans women cannot compete in those sports with women. So this is already happening. And oh, by the way, the Supreme Court also made it the law of the land when they banned trans women recently from actually competing. So this is already happening in the United States. The fact that we saw this athlete do this, again, it's curious. And oh, by the way, when she was in high school, Sophie Cunningham, she actually competed as a kicker on the men's football team. So, again, very, to me, hypocritical. And also, she's talking about trying to protect women. She didn't try and say
she's a man,
so if she's trying to protect women, why is she serving as a ring card girl for the UFC for a Conor McGregor fight, where we know that he was already...
No, hang on, wait, hang on,
because he has already been liably convicted of actually raping 2 women. And oh, by the way, the chair of UFC, Dana White, we saw him publicly actually physically attack his wife. So if she's all about protecting women,
she would deny that.
But you don't even have have trans women involved in this sport.
There's a lot
this
in
is
there.
just very hypocritical, and it's basically about trying to polarize this sport for her own grift.
All right.
So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
Well, so listen, Eric, first of all, you know, those people, they would deny all of that, but also Sophie's not here to defend herself, but the bottom line is that what she is talking about is that she doesn't really want men.
Said. It's not about defending himself. He's already lost 2 appeals. So again,
well,
she's trying, again, this is hypocrisy at work that's playing out.
Okay, but Sophie, again, like I said, Sophie's not here to defend herself, as you made some other claims about her, and she'd probably deny some of the things you said there, but there was a lot in what you said. I can't remember it all.
What was she denying?
But listen, let me just get to my point.
That this is already the law of the land in the United States?
Let me get to my point. The fact that she was caught a girl on some sort of thing or whatever, she can do that. This isn't the argument that she's making. What she's saying is that she doesn't want men, so transgender women.
No, her argument,
I'm reading it from here.
Protecting women and girls. She is saying she is about protecting women and girls, which is why she does not want trans athletes competing against women and girls.
Yes,
and in the United States, trans athletes cannot compete against women and girls. So if you're about protecting women and girls, why are you involved in a sport where we have seen 2 men in that very sport physically, sexually assault and attack women? So if you're about protecting women and girls, protect women and girls. Don't
she might choose. She can choose.
And that's what we're not seeing from her.
She can choose her issues where she wants to protect women and girls, and this is one of them. Maybe later on she'll talk about that.
No, she's just not being critical.
But right
she's
now,
actually just
Eric,
not.
Eric,
no, this
that's
is
enough.
No,
That's enough.
Pick and choose.
Eric,
if you're going to protect, you're going to protect
Eric,
them.
that's enough. I've heard what you said, and I will come back to that. But there are others on the panel, and I'm in charge here. So if you don't mind, when I ask you to be quiet, please be quiet. Thank you very much. So look. What I'm saying about Sophie Cunningham is quite simple, really. She's chosen to talk about this issue. When she was, every time she touched the ball, she was booed, which seems a bit out of order. Why? Because she dared to comment that she doesn't want men in women's sports. In particular, she wants to protect women and girls. I think it's a bit unfair for you to say she's just doing it because her career's falling apart. She's doing it because she's a woman and she's probably sick and tired of it. What do you think, Simon?
Wow. Look, I wrote 2 whole chapters on gender ideology in my book, The 10 Woke Commandments. This subject fires me up. It is so obvious. I can give you example after example of men being stronger, bigger, faster. I could go out here in Washington, D.C. and find a basketball team of random 15-year-olds that could beat the best team in the WNBA. It's called the WNBA for a reason. Women can play in the NBA, I believe. They can play in the NFL. They can play in Major League Baseball. Why don't they? Because they can't. Because there isn't a single female basketball player who could play in the National Basketball League. Women's sports are women's sports for a reason, because women need a chance to compete fairly against other women. And all she was saying, and I don't think she made a big deal out of it, somebody asked her and she just said no. She doesn't dislike anybody. She's cool with people being trans or whatever they want to be. She just doesn't think that girls and women should compete against males in sport because they have an unfair advantage. And that's what the whole Supreme Court case was about. This young boy who's now living as a girl is the champion shot put for West Virginia, and this is a middling athlete as a boy, but now as a girl is throwing the shot put and winning prizes and taking those away from girls who've worked very, very hard to have those opportunities. That's all she's saying. It's perfectly reasonable.
Let me just play the clip of what Sophie actually said so we can all hear it. Let's get that rolling.
I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that.
See now, Candice, I can't understand why Eric would be so animated and so angry over her talking about that. I think she's absolutely right about it, because I think it is absolutely ridiculous, almost laughable that you'd expect a man to be in a sport against woman in something like basketball. Candice, I just find it ridiculous. It's obvious, really, frankly.
Yeah, look, this is what happens when women speak out against this.
Yeah.
All the misogynists, all the trans activists come in and they try and destroy that person, because that's a lot of what that's trans activism is deeply misogynistic, deeply sexist. They villainize women. They don't some trans activists. No, but hang on, sorry. I just have to come back to what Candice said. Some trans activists may feel that way, but not all of them. There'll be some who are really wanting trans rights, and it is true that trans are a minority group, and in many aspects can be persecuted, and nobody wants that. But there are some who simply just want to persecute women.
Can I just come back on what Simon was saying? I think it's a little bit insulting. Simon was seen to be portraying women as being incredibly weak, almost defenceless people who can barely sort of hit a ball. I think if you put Serena Williams, even in her advancing years, against an average sort of 15-year-old tennis player who happens to be a boy, she'd probably trounce him. The majority of female athletes are incredibly gifted and would trounce most men at their sport.
Simon.
I'm glad you picked that example, because I talk about that in my book. The Williams sisters, they thought that they could probably beat any man who was in
you're talking about something that happened in 1998.
Let him finish, please.
And they played, both of them played a guy named Karsten Kossett, who was like 208th. Hang on, he was 208th. He went out and had a pint, and he beat them like 6'4", 6'2". And they both admitted, look, it's a different game. We're just simply built differently.
He wasn't a 15-year-old amateur. He was a professional tennis player. And it was in 1998.
Hang on, can you let Simon finish, please? Don't interrupt. Sorry, carry on, Simon.
Look, what you're saying is completely wrong. I've never said that women are inferior to men. I'm simply saying that when it comes to certain things, physical strength, endurance, they are not as strong as men. They cannot run as fast as men.
You literally said that a 15-year-old person off the street would be able to beat a women basketball player. You literally said that 5 minutes ago. I heard you say it.
Yes, but
I'm saying that's insulting to women. I'm saying it's insulting to women. It's not true.
It's a fact.
Well, then,
it's not an insult if it's
Serena
a fact.
Williams would be able to trounce a 15-year-old tennis player.
The Dallas boys under 15... Jonathan, for God's sake, let me talk. The Dallas boys under 15 team, that's just one city, under 15 boys, beat the U.S. national women's soccer team. Why? Because boys are stronger. There's a site called boysversuswomen.com. Look it up. You will see that in the 100 yards, in the 500, in the 1500, in every major athletic contest, boys under 16 can beat the best women in the world. That is not to demean women. It is just a fact. Men cannot gestate and give birth to children. Women can. It's miraculous. We're built differently. It's just the way it is. It's biology.
Eric, surely you would accept that you shouldn't have men in women's sports in that way?
I think this question has already been asked and answered. We already have as policy in the United States, trans athletes cannot compete against women. We see that at every single level. So this is a conversation that, quite frankly, begs, why are we having it when it simply does not happen?
Absolutely they can. They can in, you said 25 of the states have
29.
In
no,
California,
the Supreme Court has already ruled on this issue.
No, the Supreme Court said that states are allowed to ban trans women from competing against women. It did not say they have to. California allows boys to compete against girls and to win. A.B. Hernandez, a high school student who is a trans girl, has won pretty much every contest that she's competed in or he's competed in for the last couple of years. It happens all over the state. The best that they did, California, is they said the top woman gets to stand up on the stand next to A.B. Hernandez and kind of get a consolation prize. Now that's insulting to women.
And we see already trans athletes have been banned against competing against women at the collegiate level at the international Olympic level, and we do not see it in professional sports. So again, where is this an issue? And what you're talking about, we have less than 1% of trans athletes at any level competing. It simply isn't an issue, at least in the United States.
It is an issue if you're a woman.
Decided to make the
No, it's an issue if you're a woman and you have to compete against them.
decided to make this an issue?
No, it's an issue if you're a woman and you have to compete against them. It's totally unfair for women.
Name a woman at the collegiate professional level that is competing against a trans athlete.
I live in the UK, so I don't know about your college system. But Candice might be able to do that.
It's not happening.
Candice.
But it's clearly an issue because she voiced her opinion, and now she's being booed
everywhere.
She just voiced her opinion.
So it's obviously an issue. It's serious. Even in this country, we have a Supreme Court ruling, and people are still trying to get around it and do things against it, or try and change it or make their own sort of unique version of it, and saying that they haven't got the full guidance even when they have, and trying to go against it or come up with their own plan, which would then include and go against it. So it's still an issue in this country as well. We have, even though we have a Supreme Court ruling in the States, as Simon clearly pointed out, that they're allowed to ban them, but not everybody has. So it's still an issue. And women are still being persecuted for simply pointing out that it's not fair that biological males should compete against them in sport. And I really don't understand why it isn't obvious that that shouldn't be allowed, but it is. And if you're the woman that misses out because of it, it's really out of order.
Well, there's no evidence that women have missed out. I think
there is evidence that women having to miss out.
The most famous gender-critical athlete is Riley Gaines in America, and she came 5th, famously. So she wouldn't have been in medal contention even if there hadn't been any trans athletes.
No. She tied. She's about half of Will Thomas's height, and his shoulders are about twice the width of hers.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Let him finish. Well. Just be respectful.
He doesn't have to go along with it. Leah can have what she wants, but he can choose. Yes. Carry on.
Okay, the swimmer formerly known as Will, now known as Leah Thomas, when he was competing as a male, was 550th. Competing as a woman was first and tied Riley Gaines. They jointly won exactly the same time. And if you look at them on the stand, the size of him compared to her at the time, it is simply an unfair contest. So Riley Gaines, to my mind, is a heroine for standing up and having the guts to point that out, that it wasn't fair, and how many girls lost out on scholarships and opportunities to win because of this rather selfish person.
Yeah. Well, there you have. Well, they're not here to defend themselves, but we do hear, of course, Leah Thomas, he's not here to defend herself or himself, however they want it phrased, I'm not sure. All right, thank you very much for that. Let's move on. Donald Trump is stepping up his campaign against what he calls woke ideology, ordering reforms at the Smithsonian Institute after the White House accused one of America's best-known museums of promoting an anti-American version of history. A 162-page report says that the National Museum of American History has been captured by ideology and should instead place greater emphasis on celebrating America's founding and achievements. Smithsonian bosses reject the criticism, insisting that their role is to present history through scholarship and public education. The dispute came to a head during a congressional hearing last month, where Museum Director Anthea Hartig faced tough questioning from Republican lawmakers over claims that the Smithsonian is promoting a politically biased view of American history.
Is Mickey Mouse racist?
Mickey Mouse is not racist.
It's not racist. According to the Smithsonian Institution, one of your exhibits referenced Mickey Mouse as representing, quote, vestiges of long-standing traditions of blackface minstrelsy. Would you describe that as racist?
No, the historical trajectory of the origins of Mickey Mouse tied directly
so Mickey Mouse is rooted in racism. Is that your testimony?
No, sir, it's rooted in minstrelsy.
Minstrelsy, and you don't think that blackface minstrelsy is racist?
It had certain obvious racial overtones that have been well documented.
You think that that's problematic, that Mickey Mouse also has those racial overtones?
It's not for me to determine what's problematic. It's determined to me what's accurate.
Well, with me now is the Democratic strategist, Richard Goodstein. Richard, what do you make of that? Is history being depicted in a sort of anti-American manner, so kind of making Americans feel bad about some of the historical context of things?
I think Donald Trump's objections to the way the Smithsonian is presenting history are on a continuum with, the propaganda he's putting the arm on news media. And for example, his picture is in the National Portrait Gallery, part of the Smithsonian Institute. He insisted that any reference to his being impeached be deleted. Bill Clinton's picture is in the same gallery, and a reference to his impeachment is included. And we know, for example, the only people that Donald Trump allows to be immigrants into the United States now are white South Africans. This propaganda, he's going to try, whether it's the Smithsonian, the Department of Education, the Defense Department, you name it, he's going to try to cleanse it of Black influence, Black leaders. He won the election, and there's not much Congress can do about it. But let's not kid ourselves about what's going on here. It's that and nothing more.
But, I don't know. Look, you said he's trying to push back against Black influence. Look, he's not here to defend himself. I don't quite think that that's what he's doing. I think what he's doing is saying that this kind of weird ideology has seeped into the museum. And in a sense, you heard what the lady said about Mickey Mouse, and then the guy was trying to say, well, is Mickey Mouse racist? She said it was blackface and minstrels. And really? Is that what Mickey Mouse was about? That's what Donald Trump, I think, is really talking about here, isn't it?
Do you think it's a coincidence that all these Black and female generals got fired from the Department of Defense? Do you think that was just a mere coincidence? Do you think that it's on a continuum again with all this effort to root out what they see as preference to people who aren't white? Okay, I understand when he says make America great again, he's having to go back to a day when whites were totally in charge and Blacks and women and gays really didn't have the rights that they have today. That's his vision of what making America great is.
But why is it?
I don't think there's much dispute about it.
But he had huge support from the Black communities and the Latino communities and a lot of the minority groups. They don't think that because they voted for him.
So you follow elections in the United States.
I do, yes.
Blacks and young Blacks and Hispanics voted for Donald Trump because he said, I will bring prices down.
Yes.
Any economist would have told him that to bring prices down, you'd need a depression. But, not just Blacks and Hispanics, other people fell for that as well. And there's a reason that in every election that's happened, one second, since Donald Trump's been back in office, the very same Blacks and Hispanics you just referenced are now going back into the Democratic camp because they realize that Trump was saying something that he simply couldn't deliver on. So I don't really assign much weight to the fact that they went for him in that election because they were feeling the pinch of high inflation, and Trump made this promise.
Well, prices going down have nothing to do with what colour you are, but it's interesting that you want to take one part, but you won't take the other. They voted for him because they wanted him, and now you're saying that they're not voting for him because, well, which, it doesn't really make any sense, really. They voted
I'll make sense out of it for you. They had high inflation under Joe Biden. Everybody did, okay? But people who were Black and Hispanic tended to live closer to kind of paycheck to paycheck. That's not arguable. And to them, the high inflation was really hitting pretty hard. So when Trump said, I will reduce prices, okay, that sounds pretty good. And the fact that Trump was every economist would have told him that you needed a depression to actually reduce prices. He wasn't talking about bringing the rate of inflation down. P.S. The rate of inflation today is higher than it was when Joe Biden left office. He wasn't talking about bringing the rate of inflation down. He said, I will reduce prices. I will cut in half the price of gasoline. It's nonsense. People went for it because I guess they wanted to believe him. And now the reason they're voting for Democrats is because they realized he was full of crap. So it's really not complicated at all.
We're not allowed to use that word full of that other word that you said.
Full of nonsense.
So apologies.
Full of nonsense.
Apologies for the use of that word, but we know what you mean. Yeah, I don't think it's the word about that better word, but we're not allowed to say that. So yeah, totally understand. All right, look, you say that. I mean, I remember Joe Biden saying, "If you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black." That one. I mean, that was pretty bad, wasn't it? Look, let's go back to the museum though, because let's talk about it. I mean, the guy questioning the lady about Mickey Mouse makes some valid points there. She said that it's not, Mickey Mouse isn't racist, but yet in the museum, the way that he'd been depicted sounded like he was kind of racist. So it didn't really make any sense. Why was she describing him as a minstrel, blackface and all that kind of thing? It doesn't really make any sense. He wasn't. He was just a mouse.
You'd have to bring Walt Disney back from the dead to answer those questions. What Donald Trump is doing, though, is putting signs in front of these museums saying, these museums don't accurately present history. And I think he's doing that because, again, he's praying for the day that it's whites and whites only who are writing history about glorifying the white founders of this country and glorifying the era when whites were calling all the shots. That's what he wants. I don't think that's really debatable, is it?
Well, I don't think that's what he wants. Did he actually say that? He hasn't said that. You have come up with that after what your thoughts are about him. You certainly don't sound like you're a Republican, so you would come from the other side there. And so I don't think that anything he would say would come to you in a way that maybe he actually meant it, or you'll make an interpretation which would be a negative one. That's fair enough. You're entitled to do that. But, I mean, we have the similar problem here in this country with museums kind of representing history in a way that when you look back, it's sort of like, oh, it's a little bit, it's not quite like that. I mean, even the slave trade, when they talk about the slave trade, they never mentioned in the slave trade that actually black people sold their own people to become slaves. You know, it doesn't, all of that isn't in there. Even, you know, and there were many black slave owners, and it just doesn't really tell you that. I know that because I did my research and started to study it and thought, wow, I had no idea about all of this. So the way the history is written is important, and I think that Trump may have a point there, that the way it's reflected is not quite on point. And he's right to challenge it, right? Or would you just take it as it is?
Look, if Donald Trump could point to places in the various museums, and this is, again, happening at every national park as well. You haven't reported this, I don't think, at least in this broadcast. They went to every place where there was some reference to slavery in national parks across the United States, and that was stripped out, okay? Because God forbid we should be reminded that there was such a thing as slavery. So, you know, again, I don't think this is all part of a whole here. Trump, look, I won't say the word here, but we know what he meant when he talked about those S-hole countries that these people came from, right? I mean, this is not kind of news to anybody who's watching this broadcast. He said this thing from the start of his first administration all the way through to now. But now that he's not running for office again, we think, and he doesn't really care what the public has to say, he's doing everything he can to kind of cleanse the United States of all these influences of non-whites that he can. And I think this is, again, part of that mission that he's on. And my guess is when he's out of office, you know, I don't think anybody's going to be putting signs in front of the Smithsonian. I don't think people are going to be changing exhibits. And I don't think there's going to be debating about the origins of Mickey Mouse, again, unless you can bring Walt Disney back from the dead and ask him what he thought.
Well, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they were all slave owners. Of course. Are they heroes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the time, people looked at slavery differently. The Civil War was fought over that, of course,
well, that's
right?
What Donald Trump's trying to argue, isn't it?
I don't think that's what he's trying to argue at all. I think there were some people that went overboard. I think some people went overboard when they stripped names from, say, schools of like Thomas Jefferson because he owned slaves. Yes, I think Thomas Jefferson was very much a founder, a hero, and yes, he had his flaws. Slavery was something that, you know, by any objective measure was wrong. He engaged in it. But I think the fact of the matter is that's not what Donald Trump is doing here. I don't think he's trying to do anything about the tradition of slavery. He's trying to say, Again, has he said these words? Of course not. Have his actions suggested this is exactly what he thinks? 100%. But again, his immigration policy, white South Africans only, period. Of all the people in the world who, might be eligible for immigration, it's just white Afrikaners from South Africa. So you don't think that suggests something about his mindset, do you?
What? Well, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know, because I don't know the story about that he did that. He only asked. I mean, I don't know about that, but I don't know whether that says much about his mindset, because there are. Yeah, look, I don't know that particular story of that, so I can't comment on it because I don't really know it. I'd have to read it fully to know.
You've got producers in real time. You've got producers in real time who could Google it and get you the answer in 10 seconds. But I mean, I'm happy to keep going on.
Well, there may be a genocide of white South Africans. I mean, I don't know. Some people say there's a genocide in Gaza. I don't know. I don't whether I agree with that either. Do you know what I mean? I just don't really know. I don't know about that. Is there? Isn't there? I don't know. Richard Goodstein, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's Democratic strategist. It's really good to talk to you. All right, let's go to my panel in the UK first. Jonathan Liss, journalist and broadcaster, and Candice Holdsworth. Candice, I'll start with you. So let's get back to the museum, because I know he's chucking in all other bits. I don't know the story about the white South Africans, the genocide thing, so I'm not going to comment on something I don't know. But is there? I don't know. But let's just talk very clearly about this museum, because it does seem that Donald Trump does have a point that sometimes when history is depicted, the way that it's written, in particular when you heard about the way they're talking about Mickey Mouse, sounds like it's some sort of woke thing about Mickey Mouse being racist and all this thing. And it's like, really? I thought it was just a black mouse. I'd never really thought about that.
But this is a problem that's kind of emerged in the last 10 years. Many people will go to museums or art galleries, and you'll often have long political, sociological explanations of whoever this person was, like we had it here with the exhibition of Hogarth, the 18th century satirist. And suddenly they had to go into this whole spiel about the 18th century and how there was the slave trade and things like that. And it's just very insulting to our intelligence, and it isn't always relevant to the artist in question. You also have the artist Philip Guston, who's actually anti-racist because he had certain pictures that people thought were controversial, stuff to do with the KKK. Once again, he is a total critic of these things. His art was pulled from the Tate Modern.
What do you mean?
There was
the whole retrospective of Philip Guston.
Yes, it was pulled, though. It was pulled. There was a big controversy about it, Philip Guston, and he was completely misunderstood. And this is what has happened.
Well, look, I think that all history should be placed in context. And I think one of the great shames and tragedies of modern Britain is that we cannot agree on a shared history. You go to Berlin, you go to the German Historical Museum, everyone in Germany, and Germany has some problems, but everyone agrees that what happened in Germany was a terrible, terrible crime. We cannot agree even that the empire was wrong. When people talk about slavery in this country, half the population, it seems, or half the commentariat says we were the first to abolish slavery, so slavery is something that we should be congratulating ourselves over, rather than the obvious rejoinder to that. Why do we have to abolish something? Because we started it. And so it seems a real shame to me that we can't just be honest and grown up about our conversation in this country to say, yes, we did great things, we also did terrible things, but because we have this sort of total cultural, this purity battle that says we can't, if you acknowledge that things went wrong, you're somehow unpatriotic. I think that is a great, great shame. So, of course, what you have in America, I'm afraid, is redolent of fascist regimes throughout history where they try to wage a war on history itself. And they say that certain history is no longer allowed to be told. It is not the business of a president, no matter what side of the political stripes they come from, to be telling museums what they can and cannot put in their museums. The America is supposed to be the bastion of freedom. It is a matter for museums to decide what goes in those museums.
So I agree, but I think sometimes they've been failing in that remit. I mean, I would 100% say that when it comes to history, you should absolutely be talking about positives and negatives. That was my subject at university. I loved it because it's just empirical and it's not as politicised as other subjects, but it has become politicised.
Yeah, but now it's been politicised in the other direction. So to say that as the previous person was saying, now you have the Trump regime trying to sort of remove remove all references to slavery. They literally sort of, and I think there was a legal battle that stopped them from doing that. I mean, that is complete insanity. And trying to sort of sack the sort of curators of museums, that's not the business of the President of the United States.
I want to bring in the American panel, because this is quite a big American story. So let's get Eric Ham, Senior Research Fellow, and also Simon Hankinson. All right, Simon, I want to come to you first. What did you make of that? We showed the clip. Your thoughts first on the clip. And actually, I thought that gentleman doing the questioning had quite a good point there.
Look, I have a degree in history from St. Andrews, as it happens, and I have read some of this report. I think that's always step one. The Smithsonian is a complex of museums here in Washington, founded by an Englishman, James Smithson, who gave us his entire collection and bequeathed it to the United States. And it is true, if you go and visit the museum, you will see that they have exhibits about lowrider cars, which is a type of vehicle popular with the Mexican-American community in Los Angeles and other parts of the country. Fascinating, but that takes up more space than any exhibit about the Founding Fathers, who were somewhat more important to our history. They talk about Benjamin Franklin. He's about the only founding father that they feature, and all they talk about is the slavery angle, that I believe he owned a slave. I've read 6 biographies of Franklin, and I never knew that. But what I do know is that in his letters, he founded an abolitionist society, and that's all he talked about for the last 5 years of his life. And on and on. If you go to Montpelier, the house that was the home of James Madison, who wrote the Constitution, it doesn't talk about the fact that he wrote the Constitution. And Jonathan, I'm afraid you're wrong on that. You said that we started slavery. No, Britain did not invent slavery. Slavery has been there since the beginning of the human race. The Romans had slaves, the Greeks had slaves, the Persians had slaves.
Slave trade.
Africans had slaves. The transatlantic slave trade, 90+% of the slaves brought from Africa to the West, to the Western Hemisphere, went to Brazil and the Caribbean. Only about 10% went to the United States. As a fool pointed out,
listen, it's so good we're running out of time.
Eric, in Ghana, I visited all the slave
I can only give you about
they
20
people.
All right, Eric, I can only give you 20 seconds because we're running out of time. But Eric, a quick comment from you.
I think this is a conversation about history. The conversation of history, I think, is always going to be a conversation that we will see continue to play out.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much. All right, still to come on The Late Show Live.
Should the wealthy be ready to pay more tax on their assets and their properties?
I'm 4 days in. I mean, you're asking me now to write, the next budget or, the next manifesto.
Nah, she's just asking you one question, if you could answer that. But those looking for a wealth tax on the rich can go to sunny California, where Democrats have endorsed a billionaire tax despite opposition from the governor, Gavin Newsom. But are wealth taxes a way to tackle inequality, or just a little left-wing gimmick? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm and humid day for many of us, especially towards the south and the east. Rain or showers, especially towards the north and the west, with thunderstorms for some. It's actually a damp start to the day for Scotland, for Northern Ireland. Heavy and persistent rain. Showers, meanwhile, moving through parts of Wales and the west of England. And the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland breaks it into showers, with thunderstorms likely for Northern Ireland. These slow-moving storms could cause impacts through the afternoon and evening, especially given the time of year. Drier towards the east and southeast, and with some sunshine, and still another day with temperatures into the low 30s and high humidity. It's going to feel really quite warm. Meanwhile, not feeling warm at all across northern Scotland. Persistent rain and low cloud expected with a keen breeze from the east. Here are these lively showers across central and southern Scotland, with some rumbles of thunder mixed in. Likewise, slow-moving thunderstorms continuing into the evening for Northern Ireland. Hit and miss showers, central and western England as well as Wales, interspersed by some brighter spells, but the best of the sunshine as we end the day, East Anglia and the southeast, with the warmth continuing overnight. Another humid, muggy night to come for many. Areas of clouds swirling around the United Kingdom, and some showers popping up just about anywhere. Very little meaningful rainfall in the south and southeast where it's most needed, but there could be a few drops here and there. More persistent wet weather continuing for the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And a warm start to Wednesday, but actually during Wednesday we see this change in wind direction, west to northwesterlies, bringing a fresher feel. Still mostly dry for England and Wales, sunny spells, and aside from a few showers in the north and west, a mostly fine day. Scotland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, damp weather continuing and feeding on the cool side, fresher conditions towards the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Okwue. Now, Californian Democrats have officially backed a billionaire tax despite opposition from Gavin Newsom. That's their governor. If approved by voters in November, the Proposition 40 would impose a one-off 5% levy on around 200 billionaires to raise an estimated $100 billion for healthcare and food assistance programmes. Newsom argues that the tax would drive the wealthy out of California, while supporters say that the state's richest should pay more to fund public services. So with requests for a similar tax here in the UK, is a levy on the wealthy a good tool to tackle inequality, or just a left-wing gimmick? Well, now joining me, political commentator Anthony Rispo. Anthony, I'm not opposed to it if you're an absolute billionaire, but the problem is what they define as wealthy ends up landing on the middle class.
That is, well, first, thanks for having me on tonight. That is precisely correct. This is a one-time thing, and what the Democrats seem to fail to think about logically is who pays for it the next time around. You know, the Democrats, especially the socialist faction wing of the party, they talk about, you know, they conflate democratic socialism with social democracy. But if they really studied, they'd understand that in Europe, social democracy is a much more diffuse, more evenly spread tax system where it's not just the billionaires footing the bill, it's the middle class too. So in California, they'll get health care maybe for an interim period from this, you know, taxation for 200 billionaires in California. But then when the time comes to replenish, where does it fall? It falls on the middle class, always.
Well, that's it. That's the problem with these things, isn't it? And it's almost as though they don't understand the impact of it as well. Because actually, if many billionaires flee, which some will, the billionaires contribute such a large proportion of the overall tax take anyway, that now you've got to then get that money from the middle class again.
It's the math, as they say, the math is not mathing. I mean, to hold this program in the balance of 200 billionaires, it's precarious because people will leave. I mean, we can't predict for sure who's going to leave, how many will leave, but the ratio is off. You can't just put it on the laps of 200 people. It's too precarious, and people, like I said, people will leave. And Mamdani imposed this this tax on residencies, you know, for millionaires who have places in Manhattan that don't stay there year round, and you know, we don't have any data to show how many people have left or are going to leave, but human behavior, people will leave, and that puts the situation in very precarious waters.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point as well, that 200, well, even if like a few of them leave, that's a big hole in the amount that you thought you were going to take. People change behaviour if you change the policies.
That's right. That's right. And one of the fundamental problems is a philosophical one with the socialists in America, I guess, you know, globally in the West, if you think about it, but just generally here, is the starting premise that healthcare, you know, because they're going to be trying to spend this money on healthcare, by and large, that it's a right. And it sounds good. That sounds like a noble and moral thing, which, I mean, I think any sensible person would say, sure, that sounds like, as such, a moral and good thing to take care of people. But, you know, when you consider the market and the demand and supply of doctors, and how is this money going to be dispersed accordingly?
Exactly.
And can it just doesn't add up, and it's
Well, they
a
might
bit
not even
juvenile.
they might not even spend it well, which they often don't. Anthony Rispo, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Right, let's get my panel in and see what they think. Jonathan Liss.
Well, look, I mean, people will live in places because they want to live there. People live in places like LA and San Francisco for many, many reasons. And evidence suggests actually the majority of people will stay in a place because that's where they base their home, that's where their work is. They don't want to live in Montana. They might have houses there, but they want to be based in these places. Same with London, same with other places. And the more places that institute these kind of one-off taxes on billionaires, and billionaires, a lot of people argue that a billionaire is a failure of public policy, actually. No one needs $1 billion. And the only people who have more than $1 billion have $1 billion because other people have helped them to become wealthy, because they've been given massive subsidies by the government to become wealthy. No one makes $1 billion all on their own.
I disagree. I think these people have taken enormous risks. And because of the nature of the business they're in, the tech industry, they've often cornered a market. The big story of Silicon Valley is entrepreneurship, but it's also very imaginative venture capital, people who are prepared to put money behind something incredibly risky that almost has no chance of succeeding. And if it does succeed, wins big.
Doesn't change what I said, though, that those people have also, the vast majority of them have taken government help. Elon Musk has taken massive amounts of government subsidies. Those people always have an army of people who are helping them to become rich. And it's absolutely fair and proper that they should give a little bit extra to help the societies that have made them rich.
No, they create jobs. They create
Well,
well-paid jobs.
That might also be true.
Where are all the best paid jobs in America? They're in
Why can't they pay a
Silicon
little bit more then?
Valley.
Who needs $1 billion? Why can't they just pay a little bit more? They're still going to be rich. They're still going to be richer than you or I will ever be. They're still going to have hundreds of millions of dollars, but they will be helping a little bit more in their communities because they're also depending on public services. They're depending on hospitals. They can't pay for their own bodies to heal. They'll still be depending on doctors. They'll still be depending on roads and police and fire service, just like everybody else.
Yeah, I just disagree. I think that these people take enormous risk.
Okay.
They create incredibly prosperous companies that pay generous salaries so people can have a high standard of living. They contribute enormously to society.
Right, and they should pay a little bit extra because these societies need...
Why? They've contributed so much.
Because they're billionaires, and they're only billionaires because the society has made them billionaires. No one becomes a billionaire on their own.
Well, some may have become billionaires on their own.
No one has. No one in
with.
history has.
No, they would have started on their own, and they've taken all the risks. And it's not that easy to become a billionaire.
They've taken the risk and they've won.
I'm aiming for it. Hopefully, I will be. But if you say to me that I'm going to tax you 5%.
5%? I mean, the basic tax rate is 20% in this country, heaven's sake.
All right, well, listen, thank you very much for that, Jonathan Liss. First of all, though, thank you so much for spending time with The Late Show Live. Thank you so much. It's been great having your company. Thank you to the panel. Jonathan Liss, thank you so much. Candice Holsworth, Eric Ham and Simon Hankinson out there in the States. Listen, I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place at midnight in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A warm and humid day for many of us, especially towards the south and the east. Rain or showers, especially towards the north and the west, with thunderstorms for some. It's actually a damp start to the day for Scotland, for Northern Ireland. Heavy and persistent rain. Showers, meanwhile, moving through parts of Wales and the west of England. And the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland breaks it into showers with thunderstorms likely for Northern Ireland. These slow-moving storms could cause impacts through the afternoon and evening, especially given the time of year. Drier towards the east and southeast, and with some sunshine, and still another day with temperatures into the low 30s and high humidity. It's going to feel really quite warm. Meanwhile, not feeling warm at all across northern Scotland. Persistent rain and low cloud expected with a keen breeze from the east. Here are these lively showers across central and southern Scotland with some rumbles of thunder mixed in. Likewise, slow-moving thunderstorms continuing into the evening for Northern Ireland. Hit and miss showers, central and western England as well as Wales, interspersed by some brighter spells, but the best of the sunshine as we end the day, East Anglia and the southeast, with the warmth continuing overnight. Another humid, muggy night to come for many. Areas of clouds swirling around the United Kingdom and some showers popping up just about anywhere. Very little meaningful rainfall in the south and southeast where it's most needed, but there could be a few drops here and there. More persistent wet weather continuing for the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And a warm start to Wednesday, but actually during Wednesday we see this change in wind direction, west to northwesterlies, bringing a fresher feel. Still mostly dry for England and Wales, sunny spells, and aside from a few showers in the north and west, a mostly fine day. Scotland and Northern Ireland, meanwhile, damp weather continuing and feeling on the cool side, fresher conditions towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The news audience is different, it's unique, because they see through the nonsense.
We want to debate with each other, we want to listen and maybe learn.
We have a chat. That's what we do. We try and have a chat.
They'll watch my programme while they're eating their tea, they'll watch breakfast while they're busy getting their kids ready for school.
We want to hear what matters to you, what is news for you.
And what's brought you out here today?
What are the biggest issues affecting this particular area?
The audience are the best thing about GB News.
Their friends, their family. They're people who need to have their voices heard.
They're passionate about the channel, they're passionate about what they believe in.
The one thing about GB News is you get a chance to speak.
Talk to me about why so many people have gathered here today.
Do you want to say something back in return? The GB News audience is what makes GB News special.
It's incredible to see.
They shape our programmes, they shape our output, and they shape our channel.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
200,000 people have turned up on our beaches illegally, including murderers and terrorists. That's more people than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Reform will respond by ordering His Majesty's Royal Navy into the Channel to defend Britain's borders.
well, Reform launched their policy to put the Navy in the Channel to stop the boats, whereas Labour
also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs.
But they seem to just want more ways for people to break into Britain. Meanwhile, breaking news in the last few minutes. The Afghan national arrested over the murder of a Scottish refugee charity worker has now been named as Sharif Ahmadaze. He apparently arrived in Greece on a small boat in 2016, converted to Christianity, married an American woman and set up a migrant charity. Also...
Mother!
Well, talking of Afghan small boat migrants, there are 1,500 foreign criminals living in taxpayer-funded houses because we can't deport them. And there are plans now for a 13-storey Islamic centre in London, which already has about 500 mosques. Plus,
I'm reaching out to put personalities and our past disagreements aside for the good of the country.
should Reform and Restore do a deal? And
nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
well, benefits claimants are getting discounted holidays and sex toys. On our panel this evening, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, Reform UK's Sir Jake Berry, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. And what's going on here? Well, it's a surfing dog, isn't it? Get ready, Britain, here we go. The government didn't want you to know how many foreign criminals are living in your area. Next.
Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 9:02. Some breaking news. The US president told GB News Britain is sitting on gold, but warned it will remain bankrupt unless it reopens drilling in the North Sea.
When you look at the UK, they have one of the best energy fields in the world, North Sea oil. Now, I think your new prime minister is going to actually open up from what I hear, I spoke to him, and he sounded terrific on this subject. But you open it up, you'll be a wealthy country. You keep it closed, you're going to be a bankrupt country, which is what you are now. Essentially, you're a bankrupt country.
Donald Trump also told GB News he expects to have a very good relationship with the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, but urged him to tackle illegal migration, saying it's killing not only the UK's economy, but the whole of Europe.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country. But I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe. You're allowing people in that in many cases are not going to help you. I'm going to be nice. They're not going to help you.
Well, the French Interior Ministry has criticised Reform UK's plans to tackle migrants crossing the English Channel in small boats, warning it would violate French sovereignty and maritime and international law. Nigel Farage has vowed to stop small boat crossings within 2 weeks of forming a government with the help of the Royal Navy, who would intercept the dinghies and return them to either France or Belgium. England and Wales have seen their driest July since records began 80 years ago. The Met Office has described the extreme heat and little rain as truly exceptional. It comes as heat health alerts are issued for most of England, with temperatures reaching 35 degrees today. The Health Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says the hot weather has to be taken seriously.
In May and June, we sadly saw a real increase in the number of people who died as a result of heatwave conditions. The NHS now needs to prepare for summer pressures as well as for winter pressures because the heat has real health consequences.
4 men and a woman have been convicted following a major investigation into child sexual exploitation in North Wales. The grooming gang were found guilty of rape, sexual assault, modern-day slavery offences, drug supply and perverting the course of justice. The convictions relate to 3 teenage girls in the Rhyl area and those areas surrounding it between 2022 and 24. And the comedian Jimmy Cricket has died at the age of 80 after a short illness. He worked the comedy club scene throughout the 70s and 80s before getting his own ITV show, And There's More. He later fronted his own programme on BBC Radio 2. He spent his final days surrounded by his family, and his son Frankie said he asked for the last rites twice, almost like he asked for an encore. You're up to date for now. I'll be back in an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good evening. The government could be about to move a foreign criminal next door to you. Foreign criminals are being moved into taxpayer-funded asylum accommodation across Britain because Labour is just not deporting them. A bombshell investigation by the Daily Express revealed that 1,500 convicted foreign criminals are now living in taxpayer-funded asylum accommodation indefinitely. You are paying for a foreign criminal to be given a house. You also need to be aware that the government did everything in its power to stop you finding out about this. They repeatedly denied multiple Freedom of Information requests from the Daily Express, and they were ultimately forced into revealing the true nature of this utter scandal by the Information Commissioner. Now, I want to give you some examples of exactly how this could work in practice.